total weight of the spacecraft will be reduced. So we'll have to make all flexible PCBs. Then they'll have to monitor the debris. You know, there are so many debris available in the space. So when we launch a satellite, so we'll have to especially take care. Nothing should collide with our satellite, otherwise it will damage. Recently, the China rocket was falling in the ground a few days back. So everybody was worried. So much debris is coming, so many parts will remain into the space. What will happen? Okay, so there is a special team is working on the various types of software they are developing how to monitor these debris. Okay, so these systems are based on our electrical and electronic technology. Then robotics also is playing a very important role. We are going to make a lot of now robots. We call it that space robots, orbiters, landers, rovers. You may be knowing all these terminology, and these are nothing but they are space robots. Okay, and these robots play a very important role where special precision mechanical engineering, electronics, and control is required, and there is a good amount of scope to make rovers. And India, as such, we are not able to develop rovers. People have to work into this particular field and make rovers for use at Moon and Mars. Same with docking system, docking in orbits. When we dock with the existing satellite in the space, there is special mechanisms are required, and both our space station has to get connected with the capsule so that supply and the astronauts are transferred into that. So this is an automatic system. Automatic system is both manual operations are zero. So they get attached, they get detached using this automatic technology. Just have a look on a rover model lander, and right side bottom you can see the satellite payloads, how complicated they are, which are big challenge for the electronics engineer to make as small as possible. Same way, we have got a good scope for IT and computer science people. They'll have to do a lot of now cloud computing nowadays, and internet software they are supposed to develop for the security of all data or of our design and operational data. They take care. So security of the data is very important. The transfer of the data at very high speed from the space to the ground. How to transfer that data? So this is very challenge. So sometimes we are trying that real-time data should be transferred. Then only it is more useful for the public. So we also they are also involved in design and maintenance of our websites, and then a lot of computer software they are making for technical and administrative people both. So now another important aspect is the everybody wants to have their own Facebook account, website, Twitter account, and all that. So maintaining all these accounts also is a big job, which is done by IT teams. So a lot of technical softwares are to be developed for the design of the subsystems, production also. Then test and measurement, all testing is done, measurement is done, and everywhere it is all software based. Then whatever the technology we use for application part of it, again there is important role of these softwares. So softwares are also used in the administration, not only technical, but in administration we use in establishment for the employees records, security, entry, housekeeping, medical, and so on. The list is very long. Same way, the softwares are used for purchase and stores, finance and accounts, then MIS, manpower information system, library, everywhere these software, and these softwares again are developed by our IT and computer people. Okay. So, but whatever hardware is there, whatever satellite is there, we are sending a satellite, putting into the space. What this satellite does finally, we want to use these satellites for various purposes. Okay, that is was the dream of Dr. Vikram Sarabhai. We are just not launching the satellite and putting into the orbit. It should be used for the common man of the country, and we should know what are the advantage. So if we discuss the advantage of space science and technology, for all it takes another at least 1.5 hours or so. So I will not go in detail, just in brief I would like to touch this subject. So I have taken these 9 main applications which are very useful for the common man and scientists, and number of applications for scientists. But I'm not going to discuss. These are the SATCOM application. When there is a satellite, communication satellite in space, we do broadcasting, we have meteorological applications. So we have mobile satellite services, we have got educational, we have got communication purpose. So for various purpose, this INSAT and GSAT class of satellites are used. So right now we are having around 15 types of satellites. You must be knowing the satellite radio. Earlier we used to have a normal radio system. Nowadays we have got satellite radio, and for which the voice is very very clear. We can use more number of channels, and only thing is the old radio sets cannot be used for this purpose. Okay, so there is a total change in the technology of the radios. Same way, the landline phones, we earlier used to we were using the cables. Now all the cable system has stopped. We are using all these landline phones via satellite. It goes from one place to another place. Now mobiles, all of you know how much we are using. It was we are using for SMS, WhatsApp, audio, video, and so many things. Now satellite phones also have been developed, and these satellite phones are basically for army and police, etc. But people, those who are working in mountains or sea area, forest area, they can also use these satellite phones, because the satellite phones are called point used for point to point communication. Directly, there is no tower in between from the person. It goes directly to the satellite, and from satellite it goes to the another person. So it's a very important technology which is government has not opened to the common man still. So we have got TV and cable. Earlier TV system, we used to have a very very big size of antenna system. Nowadays you have got cable TV. Cable TV system, through cable signals come. Then direct to home DTH have come. Small dishes you can see outside the buildings, which receives directly from the satellite these signals. Okay, so the future technology, this DTH also will go away. Directly you will receive the signal from the satellites. So many companies are working on that. Okay, this I've already covered. Now the fax machine. Fax, already know, it is also becoming nowadays obsolete. Earlier, when the fax was started, we can send any picture or any typed message from one place to another place. So India first time the Hindu paper tried between Gurgaon and Chennai. They first time printed using this technology a newspaper simultaneously from two places. Nowadays, this technology has become very common. All the newspapers, one newspaper is being published simultaneously from so many cities in the country using the satellite technology. Earlier days, we used to get Delhi paper in Bombay after 2 days, Bombay paper in Delhi after 2 days. So all that have been changed, instant. So this is because of space technology. Now you must be knowing about the news gathering, how our reporters are gathering news from various places, and the news can be transferred from any spot. Even he is at a in a village. From there, he will cover the news. He will go with a small terminal, cover the news, immediately send it to satellite, which will be broadcast all over the world simultaneously. So how it is possible? This is possible because of satellite technology and OB vans. These OB vans, so you can see left side, first figure is India's first OB van, which was developed by ISRO in 1975. Then there are a lot of versions have come. Now very compact OB vans have come because of antenna size has reduced, electronics has reduced, and the total technology, electronic systems have changed. Okay, so because of that, we know the news. You can see the reporters covering the election results, reporter covering the Kisan rallies, any accident easily. This is possible because of satellite technology. Now, satellite internet. So, whatever internet we are getting nowadays, that is coming because of the cable. Everywhere the cable is running and we have got a modem, it is coming. Now the companies are coming up which will provide you high speed internet directly from the satellite. So all these cables will go away. We will directly get the internet in our mobile system and in our computer system without any cable. So that there are many companies are working on this and trying to launch n number of satellites which will give us a high speed internet data. This is all small communication terminals which are dial-out for emergency purpose. These is especially used for reporters type of thing. Now in the 75, you can see the left side bottom figure. It was made in Mahindra Jeep with 3-meter antenna system. It was made by ISRO. But now technology has changed. Total antenna, Jeep, and everything has become very, very compact. And we call as emergency communication terminal. From any place we can take and communicate. So this satellite technology is also being used for the education purpose. Our Indira Gandhi National Open University has started. They did an experiment using the satellite technology. It was very successful. And from a satellite, from one place we can teach, and it goes to the various classroom all over the world. Nowadays, it has become very common. You know that, as you said, and this technology is being used for educating large people. So same is video conferencing. Nowadays, what we are using right now is a sort of video conferencing or video calling. Now, anybody can see from anywhere. So it has become so common because of satellite technology. Same another important experiment application is telemedicines. Telemedicines is very important experiment which was done by ISRO long back and practically implemented into so many hospitals. So suppose a doctor is there in Apollo Delhi and I am in Chennai and I have got a complication, so I cannot come to Delhi immediately. Okay, it is very difficult to transfer. So I can through satellite technology, the Apollo doctor of Delhi, he can check me at Chennai, and Chennai doctor will take all the measurements. He will give it to the Delhi doctor. Immediately he will suggest me what to do. So nowadays again this has become very popular during COVID time, because the government is also encouraging. The government is saying you don't go to the any hospital, first you consult your doctor on the video call. So many doctors are available on video and audio calls. Through satellite technology you can consult to them and they will advise you. So government again is planning lot of mobile telemedicine terminals for the villages, for the remote places, and this technology is very, very useful in the hilly areas. So from the top of the hill, if you come to the bottom of the hill in a big hospital, it takes 5 hours, 10 hours, and it is not easy to bring the patient. So there this telemedicine is very much being used in UK, Uttarakhand area. You can see this is the figure how telemedicine setups are used. I'm running short of time, so we'll go quickly. Another important application is a GPS Navic. India has got our own GPS system that is called Navic, and shortly the government is going to implement in all the mobiles, new mobiles which will come, they will have Navic chip in place of GPS chip. So ISRO has got recognition for our Navic system, international recognition for this. Okay, so there are various applications for the location and path finding. Now, railways, trucks, buses, helicopters, individuals for location and routes. How we can find out using this Navic chip or GPS? Like aircrafts, helicopters, they also use for location purpose. Courier services. Where is my courier? If I have sent some courier to Bombay, I can immediately track. There is a continuous tracking of these couriers. Same way, mobiles are used for the location finding. We are using Google Maps. That is again a GPS based service which we use. Nowadays, government has made it compulsory for the trackers who go for tracking that they should have a chip, GPS or Navic chip on his hand, so that in case we lose the tracker, we know where he is. So to get his location, this chip is important. Same way for the birds. How we are tracking their birds? We are tracking from Russia. There are so many birds are coming to India. They are being tracked. Their path also is being tracked with the help of these chips. So there are many other applications like your ticket booking, hotel booking, the network of libraries, networking of offices like VSET, we are putting on the offices, and all the offices all over the country, all over the world, they are connected. Immediately you can exchange the data. Now, if you go to bank, you can withdraw your money from anywhere, any ATM. How it is being possible? That is because of the satellite technology. You must have seen a small VSAT terminal on the top of a ATM, which is transmitting your data immediately to your bank headquarters, and from bank headquarters giving permission to that particular ATM. Okay, you give this much money to this particular person. It is happening within seconds. Okay, so same way vultures are also being tracked, and ships are also being tracked. We have developed a system, vessel monitoring system, for the Indian Navy, where they can track near the Jamnagar the ships which are in the sea. So we know how many Indian ships are there, how many other ships are there. Now the latest applications you must have read in the newspaper recently. The government has become, UP government and Uttarakhand government must for all liquid oxygen tankers to use GPS. Why? Because so many people say that from Lucknow the tanker has started, it has not reached Delhi. What has happened, where it is standing, that nobody knows. Okay, so people are stopping these tankers in between. They're taking oxygen, withdrawing oxygen from those tankers. Okay, so government want to track where is the tanker, and how its movement, and they made it compulsory in these two states. Same way, there are a lot of applications in remote sensing. If we use the remote sensing, what we do, we observe the earth. So on that, what we observe? We observe the land, we observe the agriculture field, we observe jungles, forest, we observe pahad, mountains, rivers, oceans, and our environment. And how it is being monitored? It is being monitored with the help of remote sensing satellites, which are in the lower orbits. So we have got beautiful cameras, beautiful sensor on these satellites, and they monitor everything. So at Delhi, we have established one crop forest forecast center, which is taking data from so many satellites and giving data to Government of India about the estimate of the crops, how much is the production, which state has produced how much, and different type of crops, different type of items. They give at just as a click of computer, and all data will come. There are beautiful softwares, everything comes on the screen, and weekly basis they are giving data to the government. These are the figures, how these figures come about the crops. So various type of crops in different colors comes. Then we are monitoring vegetation with the help of satellites. They all are the natural resources in the country. There are various types of natural resources all over the country, in Odisha, Karnataka, Andhra, if you go. So we can monitor these natural resources with the help of satellites and give data to the government. Same way we can predict heat. Now the summer has already started. So we give, in the IMD department also announce that how much temperature will be there tomorrow in Delhi, how much temperature will be there in Bombay. So predict the heat wave even well in advance. So we also do the study of forest using all satellite cameras. Okay, there are lots of botany people who are doing all this study for the forest. We can detect the fires also. In Uttarakhand, it happens quite often. So where was the origin and in what direction this is moving? Everything can be tracked with the help of remote sensing satellites. We study the rivers, we study the lakes, ponds, dam, and we find out how much water is there in which river and what is the direction of the river, whether that river is changing their route or not. All information is recorded, and time to time it is given to the government that this river is changing the route. In 6 months it will change completely, so it will break, the water will enter in the village, so government has to take action. So same way in the water in the dams, etc., interlinking of rivers. So a lot of studies are being done. So I'm not covering all that. We are also studying the sea. We are measuring the sea surface temperature. We are finding the routes for the ships by using satellite technology. Which routes are good, which routes are shorter, how to go. Then, based on the sea wind velocity, we suggest the boats and ships which direction they should go. Then we also suggest the fishermen, so which coordinate they should go and catch the fish, because we have done a lot of studies and it is found where the temperature of the sea water is more, we find a lot of fishes there. So we tell the fishermen to go at that particular location to catch more fish. Same way we can predict the weather, and this work is given to IMD based on the various satellite studies. They study the weather condition and give on the Doordarshan and various TV channels. We can also predict the solar energy resources, in which place how much solar energy will be there, so that nowadays government is stressing that you use the solar panels for the power generation. So these studies, this type of data can be easily given by satellites. So cyclone prediction is one of the important, which saves the life of the common man. We are able to predict very accurately where the cyclone will hit, what time it will hit, and the information is given to the government. Government takes action, and we ask the public to vacate that place. So very accurately, very good softwares are available, and which gives very correct information. So same way we are giving data to the government for urban and rural development, or you can say urban and rural planning. They study the land of the cities and the villages, rural areas. They tell the government which area has got illegal buildings, which area has got forest, which area you can use for future building, etc. So government takes accordingly immediate action. So all the maps have been digitized. The government knows the boundaries of each and every house. Same way we use this science in cartography, the latest technology to make the maps. Nowadays maps are very accurate. The earlier maps were made by Survey of India, which were not so accurate. Now the technology has been changed. Special satellites have been launched by ISRO, which makes use for map making. Now, you see the location of Pareli. You must be knowing a lot of news in the Delhi in the winter area. Kitna smoke and fogging is there. So government took a lot of action from where this is originating. So how to find the source where this Kisan farmer is burning the Pareli. So everything, the direction and the origin is traced with the help of satellites, and the police goes and catch that particular farmer. Okay, but technically yes, we can detect the correct place, only it is up to the government what action they take. So ISRO is doing now a lot of things for the common man. The space science and technology is very useful, where which is being used for common man. What ISRO is doing, it is bringing socio-economic transformation in the country, and it is improving the life of a common man. So government has taken initiative, and government has identified 170 projects and asked all the people to use space science and technology for the better governance and better control of their projects. So there are a lot of contributions by engineering students. They have contributed into the rocket making and rocket launching. Then the students also have made at least 12 satellites in the country, where with the help of ISRO helps them in launching these satellites. So the student, those who are listening this, they can also talk to their college school authorities and start working for the small satellites projects, and they can talk to ISRO people. There are many startups in the field of space science and technology, and there are a lot of opportunities. Now, I think there are two or three more slides. I have at least listed 20 different fields related with the science, maths, and technology. So all these type of engineers are working in space-related organizations, ISRO, and nowadays there are a lot of private companies who are coming up. A lot of other research centers are coming up, which recruit people for doing the space research. So all these type of engineers, whether you are a nautical, chemical, civil, material, power, electro-optics person, environmental, Okay, so you can be, there is a good amount of scope in joining these organizations. Same way, good scope is for the non-scientist, non-scientific people like arts and commerce, commerce people, political science people, economics, business management, even law. They all join ISRO and many research organization. Law is special. This space law is coming as a separate subject, which is being taught in various law colleges nowadays. And for preparing this, I have used all these websites and data. This is my last slide. You can note down my email ID and phone number, WhatsApp number, anything. If you want to ask me, you can just write to me and I will definitely help you. Thank you very much. I will end my presentation here.
So I am really, really thankful to you, Mathur sir, that you spared your very, very valuable time for all of us. And I thank you wholeheartedly again on behalf of all the organizers, basically because you not only took us to a complete circle around what it basically takes to be a part of being a satellite. आपने केवल यही नहीं समझाया कि व्हाट इट टेक्स टू बी ए सैटेलाइट, लेकिन जो मेटिकुलस प्लानिंग, whatever planning that basically we are involved with whilst making the satellite, the different types of testing and how we have evolved, कि कहाँ से हम लोगों ने शुरू किया और कहाँ तक इसरो जो है समय के बढ़ते हुए चक्र के साथ में इस अत्याधुनिक प्रगति को लेकर के गया। तो ये पूरी जो यात्रा सर आपने अपने वक्तव्य में कवर करी, उसके लिए हम सभी लोग आपके आभारी हैं। और द एंडिंग पॉइंट वाज रियली ए वेरी हाई पॉइंट बिकॉज यू टोल्ड द अपॉर्चुनिटीज़। आपने ना केवल संभावनाओं को बताया, लेकिन आपने उन संभावनाओं को बताया दैट आर कटिंग अक्रॉस दी, कह लीजिए अक्रॉस दी स्ट्रीम, कि मतलब कोई अगर लीगल फील्ड से आता है तो उसका भी कैरियर हो सकता है, आर्ट्स एंड साइंसेज या इंजीनियरिंग का तो समझा जा सकता है, लेकिन आपने जो अपना उद्गार, आपने जो अपना उद्बोधन दिया, उसमें जो आपने अपने विचार विमर्श हम सभी के सामने रखा, तो उसमें हमको ये भी जानकारी हमारे ऑडियंस को मिली कि कटिंग अक्रॉस द स्ट्रीम भी एक पॉसिबिलिटी है। और जैसे कि मैं जानता हूं कि आपके स्वयं के प्रोग्राम का भी वक्त हो रहा है, तो मैं आपका ज़्यादा समय नहीं लूँगा और मैं अपने ऑडियंस को बताना चाहता हूं कि बीइंग एन एलुमनाई ऑफ आईआईटी रुड़की, आप जो है कई सारे माइक्रो वेंचर्स से भी एसोसिएटेड हैं। और मैं एज ए गुडविल जेस्चर, चूँकि सर ने जो है अपने प्रोग्राम से समय निकाल करके हम सभी को समय दिया, तो मैं आप सभी से अनुग्रह करूँगा कि सर भी जो है एक 4 दिवस की व्याख्यान माला का आयोजन करने जा रहे हैं, जिसमें आप इसरो और आईआईटी के अलग अलग प्रोफेसर से, एक्सपर्ट से, साइंटिस्ट से समय आने पर आप जो है वक्तव्य को सुन सकते हैं। आप सभी का उस वर्चुअल व्याख्यान माला में भी स्वागत है। और इफ़ यू आर रियली इंटरेस्टेड इन नोइंग अबाउट द 3D technique, the metallurgy and all the allied sciences, yes, Professor Mathur sir has already shared his WhatsApp number as well as email to you। तो सर आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, आपका हार्दिक अभिनंदन कि आप जो है हम सभी लोगों के साथ जुड़े। थैंक यू, थैंक्स अ लॉट फॉर गिविंग अस योर वैल्यूएबल टाइम।
Thank you very much, Tanshu.
Thank you. So
And
best
I'm
wishes
sorry
for
because I could not give much time. Very quickly, I have run my presentation.
no, don't worry sir, I have
Okay.
promised, I have promised
Yeah.
to the students especially that we will call Mathur sir especially for one special session on the space sciences and technology, and I hope that that promise will stand fulfilled in the near future।
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so thank you, thanks a lot sir।
Thank.
तो अब मैं इनवाइट करना चाहूँगा इस स्ट्रीम पर हमारे अगले वक्ता, जो कि इस व्याख्यान माला के हमारे अगले वक्ता हैं, द नेक्स्ट स्पीकर, द ऑनरेबल स्पीकर प्रोफेसर आयन दत्ता, हु इज़ ज्वाइनिंग अस लाइव फ्रॉम IACS। और उनको वेलकम करने के लिए मैं बुलाना चाहूँगा डॉक्टर प्रदीप सोलंकी, हु इज़ द कन्वीनर ऑफ मेघनाद शाह साइंस क्लब। सो the next voice that you will be hearing will be from Dr. Pradeep Solanki, who shall be who shall be acknowledging the joining of our esteemed speaker of the day, the next session, who will be convened by Professor Ayan Datta। Welcome Ayan sir, welcome Pradeep sir, over to Pradeep sir। प्रदीप सर, मेरा आपसे निवेदन ये है कि आपका अगर कोई सेकंड जो प्रेजेंटेशन चल रहा है तो उसको आप म्यूट कर लीजिए, क्योंकि आवाज़ थोड़ी रिबाउंड हो रही है। तो ताकि जो है हमारे अतिथि वक्ता जो हैं आप उनको वेलकम कर पाएं और ससम्मान जो है वो अपना प्रोग्राम को प्रारंभ कर पाएं। ओवर टू प्रदीप
अमितांशु जी।
सर। आपके ऑडियो में कुछ समस्या आ रही है प्रदीप सर। आप म्यूटेड हैं। आप अपना जो, यदि आपने YouTube का स्ट्रीम को प्ले कर रखा है तो सर आप उसको म्यूट कर दीजिए, और स्ट्रीम यार्ड वाला जिसमें आप इस समय इन हैं आप उस पे जो है उसको अनम्यूटेड रखिए।
हेलो, आवाज आ रही है?
यस सर, यस सर, परफेक्ट सर, गुड टू गो, बेस्ट विशेस।
मेरी आवाज आ रही है सर?
यस सर, यस सर।
अनम्यूट है, अनम्यूट है, आवाज आ रही है। हाँ, हाँ। इस महत्वपूर्ण सेशन में अयान दत्ता साहब का बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। और सर काफ़ी प्रभावशाली व्यक्तित्व के धनी है और काफ़ी लंबा उनका रिज्यूम है। मैं कुछ थोड़ा सा बताना चाहूँगा उनके बारे में। आप IACS स्कूल ऑफ केमिकल साइंसेज में प्रोफेसर हैं और आपको SRVC डिस्टिंग्विश्ड इन्वेस्टिगेटर अवार्ड 2019 में मिला था और BM प्राइज इन केमिस्ट्री 2017 में भी उनको मिला था। आप मेंबर फॉर जर्नल ऑफ फिजिकल केमिस्ट्री के एडिटर बोर्ड में मेंबर हैं। आप द बुलेटिन ऑफ मटेरियल साइंस में एसोसिएट एडिटर हैं। आप जर्नल ऑफ केमिकल साइंसेज में एडिटर बोर्ड मेंबर हैं। आपको यंग साइंटिस्ट अवार्ड भी मिला। आपको यंग एसोसिएट ऑफ इंडियन एकेडमी ऑफ साइंसेज में मिला। इस तरह काफ़ी लंबा परिचय है। तो मैं सर का पुनः स्वागत करता हूं कि वो अपने ज्ञान से हम सभी को जो है फलीभूत करें। आशा है सभी ध्यान से उनको सुनेंगे। जी सर।
धन्यवाद सोलंकी जी।
सर शुरू करें। वेलकम सर।
सुनाई दे रहा है? Am I audible? अमृतांशु जी सुनाई दे रहा है?
यस सर, यस सर, यू आर परफेक्टली ऑडिबल सर। वेलकम सर।
थैंक यू अमृतांशु जी, थैंक यू सोलंकी जी। तो मैं सुबह से आपका प्रोग्राम देख रहा हूँ। आई थिंक इट इज ए वंडरफुल वे ऑफ appreciating the inherent ability of science and technology in this country, and this is one way to connect, to see the ability of Indian scientists and technocrats to develop things by themselves. So I am also very happy to see Dr. Solanki is I mean his organization is Meghanad Shah Science Club. So I'm very happy because Meghanad Shah was a faculty member of our institute, and Meghanad Shah, of course, was a very famous man. And I will come back to some of his work. And one of his greatest contributions of Meghanad Shah has been to look at the Indian calendar system. Very few people know this. Meghanad Shah is, of course, known for his work on astrophysics, but Meghanad Shah has also, post-independence, he has developed our own calendar system, and this is very important. Okay, so I will just share my screen. Is the screen visible? सुनाई दे रहा है आपको? स्क्रीन दिख रहा है आपको?
यस सर, यस सर, आपका प्रेजेंटेशन परफेक्टली विजिबल है।
ओके, सो मैं ये बताना चाहता हूँ कि सो मैं आपको एक जो, सो व्हाट आई एम गोइंग टू टॉक टू यू इज अबाउट समथिंग वेरी सिंपल, and as we go across we'll see how much in-depth analysis and understanding we need to have. So मैं ये Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science का faculty हूँ, which is of course the oldest research institute in Asia. In fact, this is the only research institute in Asia which has got India a Nobel Prize. Of course, this Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science was founded by Dr. Mahendralal Sarkar, who was a doctor, and he was also very famous that he was also the doctor of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa. So one of the very important alumnus of our institute was Sri C.V. Raman, who was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics from our institute in 1930 for his discovery of the Raman effect on 28th of February 1930. And on this date, we celebrate the National Science Day every year. We also had Satyendranath Bose and Meghanad Shah as our faculty member. In fact, Meghanad Shah was the first director of Independent India in Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science. Okay, so just to give you a hint to the students, we have the Bachelor of Science and the integrated PhD programs, and we give them fellowships. And generally, our PhD students need to have qualifications like UGC, CSIR, or Inspire qualifications. So do visit our websites and to get an idea about the courses and the vibrant research atmosphere in our institute. Now, the point which I'm trying to make here is the following. See, when we talk about chemistry, chemistry is as old as human civilization. In fact, you will be surprised. In fact, all of you know this. In fact, the way we classify human civilization in terms of the growth or the classification in terms of the ages, when we call copper age, bronze age, iron age, we actually classify them based on the ability of the mankind at that time to harness the technology of that time. For example, when people were using in the copper ages, people knew only to use copper. And the reason why, because they could attain temperatures which was about 1200 degrees centigrade, which was the required for reduction of copper from copper oxide. When we talk about bronze age, we were able to go further. So in fact, the way human civilization has been classified is based on the index and the growth of chemistry and metallurgy. When we talk about Iron Age, right? When we talk about Iron Age, and when we talk about Iron Age, we know the Guptas, one of the greatest, in fact, one of the golden ages of Indian civilization. That is the time when we were using hematite. And hematite is iron oxide, which you reduce, and you need a temperature about 2000 degrees centigrade. And that was available only at that time because human could control that temperature. Now that when we talk about steel age, we were able to use, when we were able to use coal, we had used to use steam engine. In fact, if you look at the history of India, I mean, India has been extremely rich in terms of its GDP, in terms of its ability to use technology. And I think we somewhere lost in between somewhere around 1000 AD, where we could not sustain this. And that is the reason why our civilization started to decay. In fact, the ability of the civilization to be at par with the modern technology and science is what governs the society. The fact that we were not able to use the steam engine during the Industrial Revolution brought our GDP down. Of course, we have now recovered. For example, now India is one of the largest producers of polymers. In fact, now, so what are the future revolutions which will happen? And all of them will be governed by chemical science and technology, because now we have nano electronics, nanoscience, carbon nanotechnologies. And this is where we should not miss the bus. We should always be there. For example, we have already missed the silicon, the silicon technology. Unfortunately, we don't develop silicon chips in India. So now, of course, there is no point of developing silicon chips in India, because now there are other countries which can develop it much, much cheaper than us. So, of course, we need to go to the next technology, which is nano electronics. And this is where we are going to invest in the future. Solar technology, and we'll come back to it. Now, the point which I'm trying to make here, in fact, the lightest element in the periodic table is hydrogen. The lightest element in the periodic table. And how much is the hydrogen? In fact, 75% of the whole universe is built up of hydrogen. And it was discovered by Cavendish in the middle of the 18th century. Now, hydrogen is also one of the very important elements, because what hydrogen glues, in fact, the fact that water has this very unique structure, because water undergoes hydrogen bonds. And it is those hydrogen bonds which maintain our DNA, which gives us our genetic code, and which is what, in fact, now all of you should have read about COVID. And of course, COVID is the place. And in fact, when you look at RNA technologies, in fact, the Serum Institute technology, the Covishield is an RNA vaccine, and this is what it actually attacks the RNA of the virus. Now, it is very important that we know the context that from India. See, in India, when we talk about Indian scientists, we talk about Meghanad Shah, Satyendranath Bose. We in fact go back to Charaka, Nagarjuna, of course. But right now, we should also know that presently we have very great scientists. For example, one of the very important scientists of India is Professor Gautam Desiraju, whose work on hydrogen bond is internationally and universally acknowledged. And this is something we should be proud of it. He's a professor in the Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore. So in fact, hydrogen is something which is very, very important. Now, the reason why we talk about hydrogen is something which is a burning problem. And the reason why I call it a burning problem is because, in fact, this is something which I want you to show. This is a number which we have from 1947-48 to 2008. You see the prices of the international price of fossil fuels have really fluctuated around. In fact, the prices have really gone up whenever there is an international crisis. And in fact, it is very difficult to believe, in fact, to tune the Indian economy with respect to imports. And in fact, unfortunately, India is extremely poor in natural resource of oil, and as a result, we have to import most of it from Gulf countries. In fact, if you look at it, and in fact, this is something which is important. Now, look at the global temperature fluctuations. In fact, this is for the last about 150 years. And you see the average Earth temperature has been going up steadily. And as the global Earth temperature is going up steadily, the thickness of the glaciers are reducing. In fact, you can see a direct correlation between the global Earth temperature and the thickness of the glaciers. Now, the fact that the thickness of the glaciers has been reducing, in fact, it has reduced by, in the last 50 years, it has reduced by about 14 meters. So now, within next 20 to 30 years, we will see a lot of flooding, particularly across the coastal areas in Gujarat and Odisha, Madras, and so on. So, of course, global warming is something which is really going to be a big issue, because what is creating us is global warming is this greenhouse effect, carbon dioxide. So now there are two things. First of all, we have to, on an economic front, we have to be self-sufficient. We have to be self-sufficient in terms of our energy currency. And secondly, we have to also take care of the environment. And how do you do that? And the best known solution, in fact, this is the technology which the world is going to follow, is the hydrogen technology. In fact, what you do is, of course, you can store hydrogen under compressed environment, and what you by oxidizing it or by burning it, you produce water, which is completely harmless, and what you get is energy. The only problem with hydrogen is extremely inflammable. So as a result, it is very difficult to store hydrogen in a chamber, and also the density of hydrogen is very low. So of course, now people are trying to do a lot of chemical research in metal organic frameworks and fullerenes, where you can store a lot of hydrogens in a very safe and affordable manner. And this is the future direction in which our research should be focused on. The other very important thing which you should have already seen, particularly for the senior scientists in the audience, you would have seen one thing. And one thing you have seen, that over a period of time, the size of our computer is decreasing. For example, 10 years back, what you could do on a big computer, now you can do it on a mobile phone. In fact, you can do it much better on a mobile phone. So as a result, your transistors on the mobile and on the computers are reducing in its size. In fact, there is something called the Moore's law, which says every 5 years, the size of the transistor becomes half. So now you can put more and more transistor at a smaller area in terms of the packing density, and eventually you can achieve very fast computing. But the problem is, as you are going to reduce the size of the system, you are really going to see things hitting the atomic dimension. So now, of course, now we have to worry about something which is called molecular electronics, in which you are going to transfer electrons and charges and your circuits across very, very small dimensions. And what is the dimension we are talking about? We are talking about the dimension of a nano. And nano is 10 to the power minus 9 meters. So this is something which you have to worry about. We have to make nanotechnology. So, of course, nano, we know there is something called a Tata Nano Car. So, of course, in terms of the nano, how much is it? For example, you see, people, we already know of the nano cars, but then this is about 10 to the power minus 9 times smaller. And of course, we already know, for example, the brilliant colors on the on the feathers of the butterflies arise because there are very, very small nanoscale fringes which are created, and from their light reflects, and what you get are these beautiful colors. Of course, nature uses nanotechnology very well, and one of the best known examples is that of the lizard. The fact that lizard climbs the walls, people used to think that there is to be a little bit of vacuum which is created, but now we know that it is not the vacuum, but it is because of the weak van der Waals interactions which are at the nanoscale between the surfaces of your on the foot of the lizards, by which it interacts with the walls and the floors. Of course, we already know that in history we already have examples. For example, many of you know that we already had examples where we had Maharaja Shivaji, who and his army used to attack Mughal forces using this kind of technologies. This is something which nature has known, but the question is, can we use it for our mankind and betterment? Now, this is what the example which I'm saying. This is the fact that you can harness nanotechnology to climb walls is something which is known in our civilization. Now, how do you guess the size of a nanoparticle? For example, if you take a football, and you have something called Buckminster fullerene. So if you reduce the size of a football to fullerene at the nano dimension, the same dimension, if you increase, you will get the size of the Earth. So a football is as small compared to that of Earth, as small is a nanoparticle with respect to a football. Now, this is something which is very well known. Now, the question is, when was it discovered? When was it discovered? It was discovered around 1857 by a gentleman called Michael Faraday. Michael Faraday was a very interesting person. And this is something which I always like to tell my students. Michael Faraday, for all practical purposes, was an illiterate man. He never went to school. But he had intuition for science and technology. So what Michael Faraday did was amazing. Michael Faraday discovered electricity. Michael Faraday discovered the laws of electromagnetism. Michael Faraday also discovered the first nanoparticles. Now, what of course Michael Faraday did was, you take gold, metallic gold, and you start to divide it into smaller and smaller sizes. And then what you get is gold salts or gold nanoparticles which are colored. And this is when Michael Faraday, and in fact, Michael Faraday discovered it in 1857. Now, 1857 is a very interesting milestone. Can anybody tell me what is this 1857 milestone known for in the Indian context? Can anybody tell me in the 1857 context? Can anybody tell me? Now, 1857 is a very important date in the context of the Indian yeah. So this is something I'm very happy. For the first time, somebody wrote back saying that the first war of independence. In fact, I have traveled length and breadth of India, and almost 99% of the time, students keep on telling it is what is called Sepoy Mutiny. Now, this is very sad. Of course, it is a Sepoy Mutiny for the British, because of course the British were ruling us. But for the Indian context, it should be called the first war of independence. And I'm glad that somebody in the audience actually said that it is the first war of independence. In fact, it was the first war of independence because, in fact, it was coined by the first war of independence by Savarkar, who actually wrote a book in this name, that the Indian War of Independence. And this is something which we need to know, because unfortunately our narrative has been such that we have been copying a narrative which is largely of the British origin. So when our students actually look at 1857, they call it Sepoy Mutiny. Of course, it was a mutiny, but it was a war of independence for the Indian origin. In fact, this is one of the first awakenings of Indian as a nation, where we thought that the whole of India should be together and Indian should raise voice together. Okay. In fact, there is something very beautiful about Michael Faraday. So Michael Faraday discovered electricity, many of you know. And then he was called by the British Parliament, and in fact, the British Minister of Finance asked him that it seems you have discovered electricity. What is the practical value of electricity? And then Michael Faraday said, sir, one fine day you would be able to tax it. And this is what all the governments do that. For example, you know, right? First 200 units you have to pay less, and then forward, if you consume more, if you consume 2 ACs or 3 ACs in your home, you have to pay more. So that is the way government taxes it. So the idea is, this is something which is very important. You have to synergize basic science and technology, because what is basic science today is technology tomorrow. Without basic science, you cannot have technology. And this is something I thought I will tell all of you. This is something which Michael Faraday has said. Okay. The other very important thing which we should all already know is something called the Bose-Einstein condensation. And Bose-Einstein condensate is something which is known by the work of S.N. Bose. In fact, it is largely it was all of it was the work of Satyendranath Bose. And unfortunately, Satyendranath Bose was lived at that time when India was not independent, and he was not able to publish his paper because no international journal was accepting his work. So then, in great difficulty, he wrote to Albert Einstein, who was a very famous scientist even that time, and he requested him, okay, sir, can you read this paper? And if you read this paper, can you publish it in a German journal? So Einstein was a gentleman, extremely nice person. So Einstein not only read the paper, he translated the paper into German and then published it with his own comments, with his own corrections, and the paper got to known as Bose and Einstein condensation. And this was predicted in 1924. And when it was predicted in 1924, nobody ever knew that this can be of some use. But then, subsequently, in 1995, very recently, people were able to discover Bose-Einstein condensation in rubidium atoms. And now, subsequent to the Bose-Einstein condensations, 5 Nobel Prizes have been given to in physics for the Bose-Einstein condensation. So now the question is, what is the application of Bose-Einstein condensation? Now, I would give you a counter argument, and this is a counter argument. For example, if you see a large piece of ice, it requires a lot of imagination to think that you can still use this ice to make ice cream. But that should not stop you to understand why ice is formed and what is the structure of water in ice and how the water molecules play around and move around in ice. So it is very important to synergize science and technology and to develop it indigenously. So now I thought I will give you some examples. This is something which we all know, but I just rapidly go through a few examples just to tell you examples that are very important. For example, we all know from our very basic science that ionic bonds are stronger than covalent bonds, and water and oil don't mix. But then we have several exceptions, particularly at the nanoscale, where such interactions do occur, and they become very important. For example, when we see sodium chloride and we say that sodium is electropositive and chlorine is electronegative, so sodium would like to give an electron to chlorine so that sodium becomes sodium plus and chlorine becomes chloride. And then, of course, there is a balance, and then both of them reach an octet configuration. Unfortunately, that does not add up, because what is very important is the lattice of the structure. In absence of a lattice structure which solids have, you will never have sodium chloride as a solid. So it is very important to understand the cooperativity in a solid, which drives the structure towards its native solid structure. And what is very important, in fact, this is what is the structure of an ionic interaction. And you see this ionic interaction goes as an infinite series. In fact, this constant is called the Madelung constant. And as you keep on adding more and more ions, you see this convergence to a number. In other words, in the absence of a solid state structure, no ionic structure should be stable. And this is something which is often missed. But this is also true for most of the hydrogen bonded systems, where you see a simple hydrogen bonded structure like water does interact with itself through weak electrostatic interaction, in which it forms networks, and these networks are so substantially flexible that they can move around their structure, and what it creates is a dynamic structure. So when we talk about dynamism in chemistry, we should understand that it is the dynamism of the chemical bonds which drive the structure. And so much is known. In fact, from our group, we have also looked at various structures of solids, and we have seen that you need a particular orientation and a particular configuration for molecules to be stable to gain an ionic structure. Now, this is something which you already know is something interesting. Now, you see, now I give you an example. For example, water. Now, you add, instead of water, now instead you replace one of the hydrogens by methyl, you form methanol, and then you replace one more by methyl, you get ethanol, propanol, butanol, and so on and so forth. So as you keep on increase the alkyl chain of the systems, things start to become immiscible. And there has been a lot of work where people have seen the balance between the hydrophobic interactions and the hydrophilic interactions, the hydrogen bond interaction. And the reason why things do mix, and the reason why oil and things like oil and water mixes and so on and so forth, is because of this very delicate balance between two weak interactions. And this is very important, that when we talk about nanomaterial, for example, this was an article written by Xanthias. In fact, the title was wonderful because it said the world's smallest cup of water. This is called the world's smallest cup of water because this is what is called a calixarin. It's a small molecule which can have only one water molecule inside. And this is this one water molecule inside which governs its structure. So what I'm trying to tell you, when we talk about structures, when we talk about structures in bulk, and when we talk about structures at the small scale, at the nanoscale, the structures are important. And this is the future of chemistry and largely material science is governed by how you can control these weak interactions at this very, very small dimension. And then we have a lot of interactions, for example, what is called the untailored interaction, in which structures do get distorted, and what you get is a lower symmetry structure and molecular structures which are completely broken away from their symmetry. There is also something called the second order untailored distortion, which is something which we have worked on in great details, in which you see that the molecular structures, the closed-chain molecular structures, do undergo change in structures, and what you get is something very interesting. You get something called graphenes. In fact, graphenes is something which you already knew. Now, in fact, there is a lot of excitement in the world about graphenes. So what is graphene? We all know what is graphite. You're all pencil-led, the pencil by which you write things, right? This pencil. So when you write something, what you write is you have sheets of carbon which come out, which are like sheets of graphene. Now what you do is you take a scotch tape and then remove them. You get monolayers of graphite, which is called graphene, and they have wonderful electronic conductivity. And people say that future medical technologies are all going to be based on graphite and graphene. Now, we need to have these technologies. We need to develop these modern technologies if we want to be competitive in an international platform. We need to have startups where we can use these technologies. I think this is something which I thought I would be telling you. In fact, now this is more than 100 years now when we talk about. For example, this is one of the classic papers by G.N. Lewis, in which he told the structure of atoms. For example, this is the structure which we proposed, the structure of an octet. Of course, when he looked at things, he did not know how an electron moves around in a structure. So he thought that probably there is a cube and there are electrons are on the edges of the cube, and then he formed bonds, and he formed single bonds by corner sharing, by face sharing, by edge sharing, and so on and so forth. And this is the way he developed the structure of a chemical bond. And this is one of the greatest chemical discoveries of mankind. When G.N. Lewis predicted in 1916, nobody knew that probably you can do something useful with it. But now this forms the basis of our complete understanding of structural chemistry, structural biology, and medicine. In fact, now we have also looked at in great details how do you compress two hydrogen atoms under nanoscale pressures. This is something which is of importance. For example, where you can conduct through. Can we have more than two electrons in a chemical bond? Yes. You can have multi-centered bonds in which you can have several such interactions between two atoms. In fact, it is one of the work by Nobel laureate Roald Hoffmann, and who said that you can always have, in fact, this is a molecular orbital diagram of a simple molecule C2. Now, where do you see C2 molecule? Well, all of you know the C2 molecule. All of you have, I mean, we have not seen the molecule C2, but all of us have seen the structure. I mean, the properties of C2. For example, when you start cooking and you see if there's a little bit of water or moisture on the surface of your vessel, you see instead of pure blue flames, you start seeing little bit of greenish and yellowish flames. This is what is called the emission spectrum of carbon, C2, where you get to see this spectrum, the excited states. The molecule get excited and then it comes back, and this is the color you see. And then, of course, you can have examples of inverted bonds, and you can see that you can have molecules with 4 bonds. And this is something very important. You can have molecules or examples of calcium carbides, and calcium carbide is a very important technological material because when you add a few drops of water to calcium carbide, you get what is ethylene and acetylene, which is used as artificial ripening agents. The other very important aspect which has been growing is the growth of uses of extreme pressures. Where do you find extreme pressures? You find extreme pressures under deep inside the Earth's crust. You have extreme pressures, and you can have a lot of interesting chemistry and physics unknown at that time. I think this is the last point which I would like to make. All of us know what is this. What is this? This is the periodic table of elements. And you know, the periodic table of elements, you have the lanthanides and actinides. And this is the way the IUPAC periodic table is. In fact, now there is a very serious doubt whether this periodic table should have the atoms here, lutetium and lawrencium. In fact, now, based on the available very recent data, which we believe now that the lutetium and lawrencium should not be considered as F block elements, and they should be rather considered as D block elements. In fact, this is the recent data. The point is, chemistry, you know, this is like 150 years of the periodic table of Mendeleev, but still there are a lot of new things which are being discovered. For example, these two elements, lanthanum and lutetium and lawrencium, they do not have structures of similar to that of lanthanides and octanides. In fact, this brings me back to something which was developed by a gentleman called Janet in 1930. In fact, he gave a periodic table of elements in which he had actually put lutetium and lawrencium as a D block element about 100 years back. Of course, if you put lutetium and lawrencium as a D block element, you have other elements which do not satisfy this condition, because then you have to call helium as an S block element. So, of course, the point which I'm trying to tell you across chemistry is that things are evolving. It is not a stationary thing. And our current understanding and research is telling us that there is a lot of unearthed, there is a lot of things which we need to understand and appreciate. Finally, I would like to stop here by talking about this gentleman whose name is J.J. Berzelius. Now, J.J. Berzelius is a very interesting person. And what are the things he has done? In fact, he was one of the greatest thinkers of mankind. He talked about the stoichiometry of compounds, that molecules have definite formula. He was the first person to give a formula for a molecule, water. The fact that we talk water as H2, the first person to do this was Berzelius. He discovered elements like silicon, selenium, thorium, and cerium, and his students discovered lithium and vanadium. In fact, in chemistry, there are a lot of terms which he first coined, which are like catalysis, polymers, isomers, proteins, and allotropes was discovered by him. In fact, one of his greatest contribution is the fact that he wrote the first modern textbook of chemistry in 1808. And that he started the book by saying something which is, I thought I will end up with this. And he says that a devil can only write a textbook on chemistry because everything changes in a few years. So it is very important that when you talk about chemistry, when you talk about technology, when you talk about metallurgy, you keep your mind open. Do not allow your mind to be preoccupied by something, by any ideals of any side. Do receptive about what is happening in the world. Keep your mind open. Read your past. Be respectful towards your past heritage. but do not be guided completely by the past. Look at the future with respect towards the past. In fact, chemists, chemical technologists, must always take time to analyze new findings and new results so that we don't become fossilized by particular thought and not align ourselves to a particular philosophy because or any particular thought, because things do change. In fact, this is something which I have realized. The reason why our civilization, I mean our in fact, this is something which I have talked to one of the, finest historians and, in fact, the principal economic advisor of this country, Sanjeev Sanyal. So the fact that, our civilization with great heritage could not sustain its brilliance after 8th century AD and 9th century AD is because we closed ourselves. We were not willing to take new ideas which were coming, or we were not able to, we stopped experimenting ourselves. And this is something with which I will stop, that we should never stop from experimenting, and we should always be look out for new knowledge. And as our ancient philosophers have said, Jnana Vigyana Vimukteya. See, the path to enlightenment is through knowledge. And this is something which is very, very, I find this is something wonderful. Jnana Vigyana Vimukteya. Knowledge and science enlightens man, makes them free, and not make them bound. So with this word, I will stop here, and I would of course be very happy if some of you can make some comments or have some questions. Thank you very much. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are perfectly audible, sir.
Thank you.
Hello.
Yes.
We really, really thank you, sir, for giving such a trip down memory lane. Actually, personally speaking, it was a trip down memory lane for me because I just got to revisit a lot of concepts, but with the new energy, new zeal, and new vigor, and a lot of layers, just like an onion has got a lot of layers and peels. So the layers, you took one layer after the other, and I hope that the same feeling would be in the minds of the students also who are joining us here today for the same platform. And
In fact,
also,
I'm
yes,
thankful that you gave an example of this onion. In fact, this is exactly our philosophers. In fact, our traditional way of philosophy was also that. As you remove layers and layers of understanding, your understanding becomes more and more solidified. You understand things better, but then you also become a very enlightened person. This is
sure.
exactly
So,
what philosophers have told.
thanks for the compliment, sir. And actually, such deep was the message. That is, I not to flatter you or not to give you a little bit of an extra edge as far as the things were concerned, but I was so deeply engaged that I actually personally I never wanted this presentation to end so soon. अच्छे लम्हे जो होते हैं वो बहुत जल्दी बीत जाते हैं. आज मुझको
और
ऐसा लगा after
अच्छे लम्हे
presentation.
but अच्छे लम्हे कम ही होने चाहिए.
Yeah, sure. So with this spirit and so much
So, but
sort
we
of
have questions. Do we have somebody?
no, actually there are a lot of you can say positive comments regarding to you, and there are people who just wanted to know, sir, how can we develop a career in the field of research, in the field of chemistry, as far as a professional is concerned.
See, first of all, I think in chemistry, you see the reason. In India, it is very fashionable to say that we are not doing anything in India. It's very fashionable. You can say that. This is something very fashionable. Particularly, your media will always tell you India is a third world country. Very happy. You call ourselves. In fact, we are the only civilization in the world with 5,000 years of history and with great GDP, even under this lockdown. But we would always believe that we are worthless. At least, I mean, this is a problem. Now, what I'm saying, in chemistry, India, I mean, look at the pharmaceutical industry. India is the number one. Nobody says about it. Look at our pharma. Look at our polymer. हाँ, look at our हमारे see, somebody said that हिंदी वालों को परेशानी आ रही है. So the question is, I think in chemistry the currency for doing thing is you should learn skills. You should learn skills and try to update yourself. In fact, this is what our philosophy is about, Ramanujam, and if you look at our old philosophies, don't stop, learn new tools.
So the bottom line, which I can just elucidate in the most simplistic manner, is the lines by our great philosopher Swami Vivekananda: arise, awake, and wait not till the goal is reached. You have to develop a career, you have to live it, you have to feel it, you have to experience it. Career will automatically follow. So if you are living the sciences of chemistry, yes, the career will automatically follow once you open up your ideas, because Abdul Kalam, our President APJ Abdul Kalam, has said, learning gives creativity, creativity leads to thinking, thinking provides knowledge, and knowledge shall make you great. So I hope that the message from Ayan sir has gone loud and clear, straight to the heart of the audience.
There is a small question: hydrogen fuel का क्या भविष्य है?
Yes, yes, yes.
Hydrogen fuel is something which is very important. We are not doing much in our country.
Yes, sir.
See, the problem is you can always buy technology, and in fact, this is something which we learned. But then we would always be dependent on them, and they will not be as per our requirements. So I think hydrogen fuel cells have lot of hydrogen fuel cells, solar cells. I did not talk about solar cells. This is something which is going to be a big thing. India is so rich in solar. I mean, we have such good solar intensity. So this is something which we need to do over a period of time, so that we reduce our eventually we reduce our imports of crude oil.
Sure, sir. So thanks, Pradeep Solanki sir, for pointing out this question. And it's not the case of the language, it's the idea that should be imbibed. तो मेरा सभी सुधी जनों से ये निवेदन रहेगा कि भाषा की जटिलता पर ना जाएं. जो आइडिया हमारे सर ने अपने प्रेजेंटेशंस में से दिया है, आप उसको इम्बाइब करें. आज का जो हमारा प्रौद्योगिकी दिवस का मूल उद्देश्य है वो यही है कि आप जब यहाँ से उठ करके जाएं तो कुछ ऐसा पॉजिटिव अप्रोच लेकर के जाएं कि आप अपने स्तर पर प्रौद्योगिकी के क्षेत्र में हमारे तिरंगे को कितनी ऊंचाई तक फहराने में अपना योगदान दे सकते हैं एक हिंदुस्तानी के तौर पर. यही एक हमारा छोटा सा आपसे विनम्र निवेदन है. और इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ मैं आयन दत्ता साहब को, प्रोफेसर आयन दत्ता सर को हार्दिक अभिनंदन करता हूं, धन्यवाद देता हूं कि आपने अपना अनमोल समय हम सभी को दिया. वी आर रियली ऑब्लाइज्ड दैट एमिड्स ऑल द रेजिंग कोविड पैंडेमिक यू हैव गिवन अस योर वैल्यूएबल टाइम. वी आर रियली ग्रेटफुल टू यू. Thanks on behalf of all the organizers. Really thank to you. And over to Praveen sir.
Before I also thank all of you with a small request that please I request all of you to take the vaccines. I mean, this is as early as possible. Vaccines are 100% safe. I have myself taken. I've taken both the vaccines. Take the vaccines in the first available opportunity and do stay safe. And don't go by any unscientific whatever. वो अवैज्ञानिक चीजों पे भरोसा मत करें. Vaccines are perfectly safe. Do take your vaccines in the next level.
केमिस्ट्री की भाषा में हम लोग अक्सर आयंस की पढ़ाई करते हैं. तो मैं एक चीज़ और कहना चाहता हूँ, उसमें मैं थोड़ी फिजिक्स भी जोड़ता हूँ कि दो पॉजिटिव चीज़ें एक साथ नहीं रहती. अगर आपका माइंडसेट पॉजिटिव है तो दूसरी पॉजिटिविटी जो कि कोविड की पॉजिटिविटी है उसको जाना ही होगा. विद दिस पॉजिटिव मैसेज आई थैंक अगेन प्रोफेसर आयन दत्ता सर. ओवर टू प्रवीण जी. Praveen ji, are you able to hear me? नहीं, आप म्यूटेड हैं प्रवीण जी.
हेलो
जी जी.
हाँ जी जी हाँ सर, आप प्रकाश भूषण सर का वेलकम कर दीजिए.
तो आप प्रकाश सर को पहले मुख्य उसमें स्ट्रीम पर लेके आइए सर। और प्रवीण जी, अब मेरा रिक्वेस्ट है कि आप अपने आप को म्यूटेड रखें। सो गुड आफ्टरनून इंडिया। सो गुड आफ्टरनून ऑल। जैसे कि हम लोग एक सुबह से प्रौद्योगिकी और विज्ञान की यात्रा पर निकले थे, वी स्टार्टेड अ स्मॉल जर्नी ऑन the path of science and technology as tread by the wise men who have always been guiding us. So we have done a complete circle as far as the field of science and technology is concerned, when we move from space to information to communication to technology to chemical sciences, and now it's high time for us to dive deep into the field of agriculture, into the field of biotechnology with our esteemed guests. Yes, here we have Professor Prakash Bisen sir. I really welcome Prakash Bisen sir on behalf of all the organizers. Prakash sir has been dedicated to bring the world's best education to the engineering and the medical students of India, with an author of innumerable number of research publications, books and technical reports, and he has also edited a volume. He has also published 2 US patents, 1 Japanese, 1 European and 2 Indian patents on tuberculosis, and 6 applications are pending still for the patents, with a lot of students who have done a lot of work under his able guidance, and they have taken a lot of research in the form of PhD, and with a innumerable number of incompatible, you can say uncomparable research and teaching experience. I wholeheartedly welcome Prakash Bisen sir, who has a specialization in medical, environmental and agricultural biotechnology, माइक्रोबियल साइकोलॉजी एंड जेनेटिक्स। सर, सभी ऑर्गेनाइजर्स की तरफ से मैं आपका हार्दिक अभिनंदन करता हूं। आपका आज के इस सत्र में स्वागत है। और इससे पहले सर आप अपना वक्तव्य प्रारंभ करें, मैं आपके सामने आपके एक छात्र को इंट्रोड्यूस करना चाहूँगा कि जो कि आपके छात्र रहे हैं और आज के इस पूरे वक्तव्य श्रृंखला के ऑर्गेनाइजर भी हैं। डॉक्टर प्रदीप सोलंकी जी आपके सम्मान में कुछ शब्द कहना चाहते थे, तो प्रदीप सर, नाउ ओवर टू यू।
सर नमस्ते, चाणस्पर सर। 96 में सर मैं आपका स्टूडेंट रहा हूँ। 95 से 97 में मैंने एमएससी किया था बायोलॉजी से। आप उस समय बिजी थे सर। आपसे मिला भी हूँ सर।
I'm so happy to see you here.
आप उस समय बिजी थे सर।
Shall I start now?
Yes, sir. Prasar.
Yes sir. Yes sir.
अंदर Solanki ji, Dr. Solanki, I'm so happy to see you here. And
आपको स्क्रीन को शेयर करना है।
हाँ, वो जो स्लाइड है ना, ये
करना
ये वाला। आ गया?
जब हो गया एक बार से पूछ लीजिए अगर उनको सुनाई दे रहा है।
ये सुनना, इसको ये क्या करें? अंगद, अंगद, जरा से देख लो आके। इसको जो ये कैसे हटेगा
ये आप बस इसमें आ जाइए, ये आ जाएगा, उनको ये दिखाई देगा। अगर आप यहाँ आ जाएंगे तो उनको ये दिखेगा।
ये हटाना हो,
ये देखिए। हाँ।
Now can you see my slides of the presentations?
नहीं, वो नहीं देख पाएंगे। आप यहाँ जाइए, यहाँ
अच्छा, यहाँ है।
अच्छा। ये तो नहीं 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 नहीं, ये नहीं, एक सेकंड। अब उनको दिखेगी। अगर आप यहाँ जाएंगे तो उनको नहीं दिखेगी। अगर आप यहाँ जाएंगे तो उनको नहीं दिखेगी। मैं आपको फिर से शेयर। अब यहाँ जाइए, अब उनको दिखेगी।
Okay. So I'm so happy. Hello. Hello. Can you hear me now? Am I audible? Hello. Hello.
आवाज नहीं आ रही।
Yes, sir, you are audible.
हाँ, sir, audible.
Oh, am I audible? So I'm so happy to be here. And
हाँ सर, आवाज आ रही है सर आपकी।
Okay. You see, I'm at Gurgaon, so it's not my computer, it's my grandson's computer, so I'm using his services. So I'm very happy to be here and to see Dr. Pradeep Solanki, and he happened to be the student of Jivaji University during 1994 to 96, where I was working as a vice chancellor. Well, before I start my presentation, can you see my presentation? First, let me know. Is it? Can you see it? Can you see the presentation? Can I continue my presentation without any this screen? I don't know what.
Yes, sir.
Can you see this screen? Can you see the slides? Presentation without any. Are you able to see my presentation?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So biotechnology that starts or that rotate around a living cell. And the topic of my lecture is biotechnology, new horizons beyond imagination. Well, I did my MSc in 1969, and when I did my MSc, there were no biochemistry, no microbiology, no biotechnology. And everything, whatever I could learn with the association with my students, and who obtained their PhD under my guidance. So it was actually, they taught me the modern biotechnology. Today, I'm considered as a cancer specialist, as a tuberculosis expert, as a fermentation technology expert. So everything that what I am going to present before you is actually the work of my students who were associated with me. I was simply a supervisor, and they asked me that, sir, you have to guide me on cancer, or you have to guide me in tuberculosis. So in brief, I will just let you know how I started. I was a plant scientist. I did MSc in botany. My specialization was in plant pathology. I was not knowing anything about biochemistry or microbiology. With the passage of time, I started my work in physiological plant pathology and obtained my PhD and DSc in plant pathology in 1982. Then when I went on a UNESCO program to Hungary, my supervisor was a great plant biologist, Professor Gabor Farkas. He was the director of plant physiology. He asked me that don't consider yourself as a plant scientist or animal scientist, you are a biologist. And he asked me to start work on virology. Since that time, I was working in a government college with very meager facilities. So I asked Professor Gabor Farkas, sir, I come from a very small place, from a college, and if you will train me in virology, it will be very difficult for me to continue my work in virology. That was in 1978. When I asked him that it's difficult to work in in the area of virology, just because till that time I was thinking that for doing work in virology, you have to have an electron microscope, which is a very expensive proposition and no college can afford it. So I explained to him, sir, my college cannot afford to have an electron microscope or the modern instrumentation. You please train me in the area of plant pathology, in which you have a number of good reviews. He said that you can work in virology without an electron microscopy. You can work without X-ray diffraction. You can work without much sophisticated instrumentation in your lab. And from there, I started my working with virology. And what is that? That I could train myself in the virology. That was the specific behavior of viruses. That means the viruses, they are highly specific. If they invade or they infect human being, will not cause any infection in plant. Plant will not cause any infection in animal. And there is a very simple technique, that is double agar layer technique, by way of which you can see the viral load, how many viruses they are infecting, and you can count it. So if one cell is infecting, the one virion is infecting a specific cell, that means it is the infective particle of this particular host. So with that, I started my work in cyanophage. Cyanophage, that means the viruses which infect cyanobacteria, the algal bloom. And these algal bloom, sometimes you find in aquatic bodies that they are sometimes green in color, water, sometimes you find that they are yellow in color. This is all because when the viruses, they invade the cyanobacteria, then the pigments, they come out. If it is a green algae and if it is infected by a virus, then the whole water that becomes green, or sometimes it becomes purple because the phycocyanin is coming out. And with that, from that water, you can isolate the viruses. And I did isolate the viruses without the help of any electron microscope, without the help of any X-ray diffraction, and only on the basis of host specificity, I could publish number of paper in international journal. Then with that, what happened, I developed my confidence. When I developed my confidence, then I returned and from the UNESCO program to India, and I asked my professor that I want to develop a lab on cyanobacteria. There, Padma Bhushan, Dr. Professor C.V. Subramaniam, he was actually the chairman of the Life Science Committee in CSIR. There I submitted a proposal on cyanobacteria and cyanophage. Then he said, you are working in college? I said, yes. How are you going to study these viruses there? I said, sir, I have everything and these are my publication, and I think we have sufficient basic infrastructure to start the work in virology. Then anyhow, that was in 1980, and I could get a grant of 80,000 rupees on a very small project. And that time, 80,000 rupees was quite a sum, because the JRF, they used to get 600 rupees per month as a fellowship. I started working on this, and in the first, somehow what happened, Professor Subramaniam, C.V. Subramaniam, he was the director of the Center of Advanced Studies in Madras University. He somehow came to Jabalpur to deliver lecture in the university, and I requested him, sir, you see my lab. He came to see my lab and saw that I am working with very, very meager facilities. Then he said, oh, you are working like this. Then when he returned and he asked the director of the CSIR that to this gentleman, I want to give 3 lakh rupees more because I have seen under what meager facilities he is working. Then there was a meeting in Goa, and in Goa, CSIR invited me for a presentation. I presented everything and I got additional amount of 3 lakh rupees for buying some small equipments. So with that, I started working viruses, and once upon a time, I was the expert. I was considered as an expert in cyanophytes, cyanobacteria, and was publishing papers and everything. Then in the meantime, what happened? Developed my lab at Jabalpur in the area of cyanobacteria and cyanophytes. So from the plant science, I turned myself into as a virologist, and number of students, they obtained PhD in virology and was working in different places. In the meantime, in 1985, I was elevated as a professor and head of microbiology department of Barkatullah University, Bhopal. When I went over there, I was given the charge to develop the department of microbiology from scratch. When I had to develop the department from scratch, then in the meantime, one student who turned my life, he came to me and he said that I want to do PhD with you. He was from a village. And he was having second division marks, 54 or 53% marks, because with this percentage, he was unable to get registration for PhD, because for PhD, as per Act, one has to have more than 55% marks. He came to me and he said that I want to do PhD under you. And that time I was the executive counselor of the university, Dean Faculty of Life Sciences. So I said, no, you cannot be registered because you have less marks. So PhD is, you just go and work wherever you are working. So he was working as a technical assistant in Lupin lab at Bhopal. But you see the perseverance. He almost daily he was coming to my department, sitting with peon outside my office and asking all about that. When do I come? When do I go? What do I do? Then one day that peon he came to me that, sir, this is the person, he is asking everything about you. Where do you go? How do you do? Then I asked him, Mr. R.P. Tiwari, you go away. You cannot be registered here. Then he said that, sir, you see, this is the act. Here it is written that if you have 2 international publications, you can be registered for PhD irrespective of your marks in MSc. Then I thought that this person who is coming from a village near, and there is a place, Satna, and from Satna Degree College, he did his MSc in botany with 53% marks or 53.5% marks. Then I asked him that, can you write international? Yes, sir, I can write. I said, okay, you go and write and then I will see. And that time there were no computer, nothing, no mobile. He went and he wrote a big article on tuberculosis. And when I started reading it, I said that, you see, I'm not an expert in TB. If you want to work in cyanobacteria or cyanophytes, well, you are most welcome, but not in TB. Then look at his confidence, sir, I will do only in TB, tuberculosis, and that too under your guidance. I said, when I do not know anything about tuberculosis, how can you do it? He said, then I started reading that the review paper. I threw all those papers on his face. I said, is it the way to write a review article? Then he asked me, is there anything wrong? I said, there is nothing right. So he said, okay, I will rewrite it. He rewrote it. Second time, third time, fourth time, he was just coming, sitting in the lab, sometime going with my scholar. So from morning to afternoon, he was working as a technical assistant in Lupin for 1800 rupees per month. And after that, he was coming to the lab. He was sitting with my students, observing that what are they doing. And what happened in the meantime? What happened? I was elevated. I was sent to Gwalior as a director of a technical institution, Mother Institute of Technology and Sciences. So when I came to Gwalior, I said, okay, now this Tiwari ji will not come, and I will work over here. So look, the perseverance of that person. That time when there was no computer, he was writing, and he was submitting the article to me. And after 4, 5, 6 times, when he came to me at Gwalior, he said, "Sir, finally I have reached to this, and I have made all correction, updated, and everything." When I saw that, then I said, I thought that okay, I will submit it to a good journal, and I submitted that to ASN journal. I said that when I will submit it to a good journal, it will be rejected, and at least he will not be behind me for PhD program. To my great surprise, that paper was accepted, and with minor correction. Now I was after him. I asked my student, find out where is this Tiwari ji, and find out his number. And so, those days the mobile was not there. So he telephoned to me from some PCO. Sir, what happened? I said, you come over here. I arranged for his stay in the hostel. He stayed there for a week, revised that paper and submitted it and published. Then he said that, sir, now can I be registered now? I said, no, one more. He wrote another paper. And after that, all my patents on tuberculosis, 2 American patent, Japanese patent, Indian patent, everything was actually the work out of the PhD thesis of R.P. Tiwari. And I was included in the editorial board of Tuberculosis, which is published from Elsevier. Now with this, the story doesn't end here. Now when I started publishing, a number of papers I have published on tuberculosis, and number of reviews I have published on tuberculosis. Then another guy who was a second divisioner from Gwalior, from a cancer institute, he came to me. He was from a primary school teacher. He was also having second division. It was difficult for him also to get registered. I said, what do you want? He said, I want to do PhD under you. I said, you are having 53, 54% marks. You cannot be registered. I know about Tiwari ji, how he got, and I have already written 2 articles, and you just see it. And now he said that I want to work on cancer. Now I said, he has made me expert in tuberculosis. He said, I will give you everything, all papers and everything. Now all papers he gave to me, and I said that I don't have lab for cancer biology. How will you? Sir, I will go here and there. I said, you see, you come from a very poor family. Your father was a primary school teacher, and I know how are you living. He was a Muslim guy, Jakir Khan. So he said, I can give you a job of senior technical assistant in my institute. That post is lying vacant. You join there. And he said, no, I am not interested in job. I want to do my PhD. I said, okay. There was a girl whose name is Rita Mulherkar. Rita Mulherkar was with me while I was in a UNESCO fellowship in Hungary. And he was working in Tata Memorial Cancer Institute at Bombay. So I said to him that, can you bring somewhere, you search out the mobile number of Rita Mulherkar. I will talk to her and I will send you over there. You complete your PhD there. He said, no, I want to do PhD under you. I will go over there to learn techniques. That's all. And will go with my sample. He brought from somewhere Tata Memorial, and he got the mobile number, and I talked to her, and then I sent this boy to Tata Memorial to Bombay. He stayed there for 6-8 months and published very good paper in radiotherapy, head and neck, cancer letter, and very good publications. And he was able to do. PhD. And now I review papers in cancer. Number of papers always every month 2 or 3 papers I am receiving on cancer. So a person who was not having any medical degree was initially one person, he made me tuberculosis expert. Second person, he made me cancer expert. And then I recommended his case for a French fellowship. He went to France. He worked 5 years over there as a postdoc. And now, when he was working in France, he applied for a job in some cancer institute, which is run by Department of Science and Technology. He was not invited because he was not eligible for interview because of his MSc marks, because he was having 53 or 54% marks. He was very frustrated. He said, I want to come back and I don't have any opportunity. What to do? I consoled him that maybe something good is likely to happen with you. And in the meantime, he is in faculty in the University of California in Los Angeles, in this Nixon, some cancer institute of the University of California. So he is working there as assistant professor, having good grant, having good projects and everything. Now he has become the green card holder, everything. Now, the story doesn't end here. There was the two important diseases, tuberculosis and cancer. Then a person, he came to me from Banaras Hindu University. He was working in Serum Institute. He was SK Singh. He came, he said, I want to work on HIV. I said, sure, 2%, they have made me expert in cancer and tuberculosis. Now you want to work in HIV. Anyhow, he was able to complete it HIV. I published a book from Springer on HIV and AIDS, basic elements and priorities, and number of papers we published in HIV. That is how I am having no degree in any of the medical sciences, but the students, they taught me in different areas. Now, after my retirement, I took retirement in, say, VRS at the age of 52 or 53, because it was very difficult to continue my research in government institutions. So I took VRS and I joined a company known as Topolite Food. They were working in food technology. Now, in one of the program in DSIR, Department of Scientific Industrial Researches at New Delhi, I was invited there as an expert. And there some discussion was going on about microbial culture. So because it was dealing with the microbes, so I became interested and I said, what is happening? So they were, the chairman of the committee was Dr. A.K. Srivastava from NDRI Karnal, and Dr. Rameshwar Singh, he was the microbiologist from NDRI. And they were saying that we are importing cultures, bacterial cultures from Denmark, from Italy, and from Canada for yogurt manufacture. When I was just listening, I asked them that what is there that we are importing culture and spending millions of dollars for importing cultures. He said, yes, there is some difficulty. I said, you don't have culture. We have culture, but because of many problems, I mean, we are unable to identify. The cultures are there and they have become mixed culture and contaminated cultures. We cannot use them. I said it's very strange that in India we have tropical climate, we have subtropical climate, we have temperate climate. Every type of climate is there, and we can easily get the bacterial culture here for yogurt manufacturing. They said that we can give you a grant, you start work. I said, okay, I will start, but I can start it with my private industry. He said, so anyhow, to cut the story short, they gave me 2 crore 40 lakhs of rupees for developing cultures from India. And for 1 year, I was working, and the cultures which were imported from outside, they were the reference culture. And we collected cow milk, buffalo milk, and goat milk and number of different type of varieties milk. But ultimately what we were finding that the imported culture was somehow better, and somehow the curding was earlier than the culture which we isolated. And one day I was just thinking that let me take the milk from camel. I send my students to Rajasthan deserts and ask them to collect the milk and of camel, and from camel milk we have isolated number of bacteria. Today I'm very happy to inform every one of you that we have the largest collection of bacterial probiotic cultural collection with us, and that project which was given to us were 2 crore 40 lakhs of rupees, that we ended with 1 crore 60 lakhs of rupees, and rest of the amount that we just returned to the Ministry of Science and Technology. So with that, what happened from medical, I have just came to the industrial microbiology. Or now we are, somebody when asks me what are you doing, I say we are selling cultures. हम लोग बैक्टीरिया बेच रहे हैं, और बैक्टीरिया जो now at this pandemic period of COVID, now ultimately everybody is concentrating on immunity. Everyone is concentrating on immunity. The probiotic bacteria, when I say about the probiotic bacteria, then these probiotic bacteria, they are actually the live vaccine. They are the live vaccine. You take a different mixture of bacteria and you just drink it, and they go in your gut and develop immunity in the system. And with this, our old Ayurveda theory that says that all type of diseases that rest in your gut, and that rest in your gut, and if you treat your gut with your natural product, the bacteria, then you can treat the diseases. And that recently there is a paper in Science which was published that the Parkinson, the neurodegenerative system, is actually is influenced by probiotic bacteria. Now, so far as you know that there is only one brain in the human being. No, there are two brains. One is the central nervous system, and then the second is intestine. Intestine has got the second nervous system, which is known as that is the another nervous system. So these are the two nervous system, and there is a connectivity between this nervous system and that nervous system. And that is how, if you control if you want to control the neurodegenerative diseases, you have to have the specific combination of specific bacteria in a specific number. Then they have shown that they were able to control the Parkinson, and that paper has appeared in 2018 or 19 Science. Now the people are working on this, the live vaccine. But in the meantime, when I was just telling about all these things, the Bill Gates Foundation, Melinda Gates Foundation, they have a program, the Great Challenges. So in that program, looking after my the patent, they asked me to submit a project, and you give me the prototype kit on this. And they gave me 1,20,000 Canadian dollar from Melinda Gates Foundation. And then again, there was a problem that I was a retired person. I asked them that I'm not working in university. I'm not working in any public funded institution. Then he said that you open an NGO, and then that NGO, I will fund it. But to individual, I cannot fund. So I said, but then if that is the problem, I won't take this funding, because I know the problems in the government sector to enjoy, to complete the project in time, because there every 6 months you have to submit, and after 2 years you have to give the complete detail. Then I was associated with the engineering college, and there they financed it, and we submitted the complete report, and that was considered to be a very good report with number of publications. Then in that particular project, we started working on microbiome. and that was the first paper on microbiome from India on tuberculosis. And that microbiome project, that means you all know that for a specific disease, one causal organism is responsible. That is what is known as Koch postulate. Koch postulate says that tuberculosis is caused by Mycobacterium tuberculosis. That is the bacteria which is responsible to cause this infection. No, but now the theory is that that bacteria alone cannot do infection. It has to have some associated bacteria, and that means the bacteria, they live in a consortium. They live in a group, and every type of bacteria, they have got a specific role for Mycobacterium tuberculosis to cause infection. So that is what is known as microbiome, and the microbiome study was made first on with the Melinda Gates Foundation project, and that was published in a very good journal. So with this, I started my career as a botanist, but the students, they made me different type of specialist. Now I will tell you what the biotechnology is. So I wanted to give you a very brief introduction, that, but still I was unable to make it more briefer than this. So this is important reason for studying is everyday experience, medical advances, growing human population, challenge of decreasing rate of biodiversity, and biotechnological advances. Everything in biotechnology is around life. Life, that means a cell, how it grows, how it maintains the internal environment, how it multiplies, how it responds to environmental changes, and how it evolves. So again, evolution I am not going to touch upon. The pillar techniques of life sciences or the biotechnology is recombinant DNA technology. You can take a DNA fragment from any organism and introduce it to another organism and see the expression. And when you introduce it, you introduce by using a vector which is known as plasmid vector. So this is the recombinant DNA technology is one very important technology of biotechnology. Then second is the bioinformatics. Now you can extrapolate, you can do with the help of computer sciences, you can develop method for storing, retrieving, organizing, and analyzing biological data. Then third is the biomedical engineering, basic application of engineering principle, design concept to medicine and biology for healthcare purposes. And the industrial fermentation, that is commercial use of microbes to produce acid, gases, alcohol by conversion of sugar or any type of complex carbohydrate or proteins through a metabolic process. And the micropropagation, now you can do rapid multiplication of stock plant material to produce a large number of healthy progeny plants. And the biotechnology, they have been divided into white biotechnology, that is the industrial use of biotechnology for the use of enzyme industrial catalyst, red biotechnology for the medical use. When we ask green biotechnology, that is for the agricultural use of biotechnology, and the blue biotechnology, that is the use of marine and aquatic organisms like aquaculture and all that for biotechnological application. And the main thing, main technology what is being used is organoids, a three-dimensional organ bud grown in a laboratory that specializes in regenerative medicine, symbiotic association, xenotransplantation, and pharmacogenomics. These are the important area of recent techniques. Now, when I was talking to you about the live vaccine, human bodies are highly colonized. When human bodies are highly colonized, you know, about trillions of living bacteria exist in the human intestine, and about 100 trillion microbial cells are in human body, mouth, intestine, vagina, and skin. And the total number, that is 10 times more the total number of human cells. And the 500 different type of bacterial species is in intestine. Altogether, if you say weight-wise, the 3.5 pound weight is of bacteria which is associated with the human body, which is equal to the weight of brain and heart. They changes with your food, they changes with your geographical location, type of birth, type of delivery, and when immediately after birth, it takes about 18 to 24 months to complete adult colonization of bacteria in the intestine. This is the two different type of bacterial population exist, with the caesarean mode and with the normal mode, and different type of bacteria as per with their frequency, with their weight, with their qualitative and quantitative, really they are different. This is the microbial starter culture which we started, a starter culture. Now, if I say in the microbial starter culture, now we, for the yogurt manufacture, we were importing culture from outside. Now, nearly 10% market share is captured by my company. Earlier, it was 100%. The cultures were imported cultures. Now, the cultures, most of the yogurt manufacturer, they are buying cultures from our company, and so it's growing very well. And we give the customized culture. You see, the taste of the yogurt of a Tamilian is different from a Punjab state. So depending upon if the culture of dahi, it's basically single culture dahi, and that as per the demand of the customer, we prepare the culture and we give them, and it is working very well, whether it is Gujarat, and so we are supplying cultures all throughout the country. This is the fermentation technology. Fermentation technology is a very important aspect where we grow different type of bacteria, different type of fungi like Saccharomyces boulardii or Saccharomyces for fermentation of alcohol. So when we use the fermentation technology, the parameter for production are temperature, agitation, pH, air. So all these things has to be controlled for proper type of fermentation for the product development. As I said to you, the probiotic, with this, we develop the probiotic culture, and they are very good for normalize intestine, immunomodulation, and metabolic effect. So we are working in the area of probiotic, and different combinations of bacteria are already in market, and they are being used as live vaccine to enhance the immunity. You see, why I say the live vaccine has got a promising future. My requirement would be different than my wife. My children will have a different requirement, because everything that depends on your different type of habits and all this. So in the probiotic, the combinations, maybe 6 combination of A, B, C, D bacteria I am taking, and my wife is not taking A or B, and some different type of combination with different type of the cell number, which is known as the strength. So this here, it is not counted as milligram, like antibiotics, we say 500 milligram. Now in future years, in after this probiotic culture, they will come in the market for as a treatment strategy. You will find that you will go that I need probiotic of 2 billion cells, or A, B, C, D, or B, C, D, or 50 million, or 10 million, 10 million combined with 2 billion, or 2 billion combined with 50 million. So like that, different type of combinations, it has got a great future. And in Europe and America, it has already come up very well, and the people are already working on this. And India also, now whenever many, I have seen in many of the prescriptions that doctors, they have started recommending different probiotic combination. But here the doctors, they are not well trained about the probiotic. So like just they say that you take this capsule. Now with the probiotic, when we say probiotic has to be taken with its substrate. This substrate is lactose, and the lactose, so you have to take it with milk. And when the lactose sugar is given, then the multiplication of bacteria will be proper, and they will maintain the proper frequency, the proper amount of bacterial cells that will grow in a proper environment. These are the different type of whole genome sequence. Whatever the bacteria we have isolated. Now, if you go to sell it in the market, you have to have the gene sequence, and you have to know that these are the genome or these are the portion of the gene that they are expressing this type of activity. So all that information you must have, and these are, we cannot afford to have it. Now there are a number of private labs in Bangalore and number of places. You just pay the price and they do for you. So these are the different type of techniques which are being used: Illumina, ABI solid, ROSE, and iron Toronto. Now this is the another thing, hierarchical. How do we do? We take the gene and we have the library of gene, and then we do the shotgun sequencing and then assembly, and then you see that these are the assembly. This is what you have got the genetic engineered strain. Now in the microbial propagation, you can do,
Sir,
you can
your
grow
screen is not
cells,
visible.
you can grow tissues through the tissue culture. So this is again the tissue culture technique where you can grow, and from the complete plant, from any organ of a plant. You can take a leaf, you can take root, you can take stem, you can take any portion of a plant. And the recombinant DNA technology advancement has made gene therapy successful. Is the alteration of an afflicted individual's gene holds great potential for treating disorders, genetical diseases, traceable to a single defective genes, and uses various vectors for delivery of gene into cells. Gene therapy is again, here you use viral as a vector. In viral vector, you just introduce it, and then it goes into the normal cell. It is inserted. The viral portion is removed, and ultimately the bone, it goes to the bone marrow, and then the gene therapy is successfully used. Then in the genetic engineering, you use animals, you use plant, GMO, and you use pharmaceutical products. So all these things are used in the genetic engineering for different type of implant and tissue engineering. Microarray is another technology where differences the discovery that leads to preclinical trial and clinical trial in a very significantly, it has reduced the timing for the experiment. And the future of microarray is that to control various type of diseases. Microarray, now you can see here is the lung versus lung, healthy lung, and here you can see with the lung cancer about this is showing that there is lung cancer and it needs to be treated. So this is because of this has become possible only through the microarray technology. Proteomics. Now any type of gene, whatever you have, they have to express in a different form, and the proteins, they may be structural protein and they may be the functional protein. So all those different type of proteins which are synthesized and which are different type of structural or functional proteins that you can identify through high throughput proteomic analysis. So this is another important area which has opened door to treat various type of diseases. Then another is organ culture. The culture of whole organ or intact organ fragments with the intent of studying their continued function or development. It can be maintained for hours or days by profusion with oxygenated blood or serum, used for metabolism and drug studies, and provide most accurate reflection of organism's physiology. This is 2000 heart profusion versus stem cell created a new heart by organ culture. They developed the complete organ culture, the heart through the organ culture, and they are studying it, that how it functions and how the different type of medicines they act on it. DNA fingerprinting, you all know about in forensic science, it has played a very important role. It can determine the help us in identifying different plants, different microbes, any living system that for DNA fingerprinting is considered to be a very valid method for identifying various different type of organisms. Genome editing, you can edit the gene now. The technique is available now with this gene editing, which is known as CRISPR, that is clustered regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats. So with that, this has also opened door in medical biotechnology for treating different serious diseases. This is already I have explained to you organoid galore. New types of lab-grown organ buds also can organize. Propped up in 2030, in August, scientists raised a small three-dimensional model of embryonic human brains that could form some of the complex structure of the organ. This demonstrates the enormous self-organizing power of human cells. This is potent stem cell. This is again another method which was developed by in Weizmann Institute of Sciences in Israel. Reprogram skin cells. It is being used to treat skin cancer and other places also. It has been developed and modified and being used. This is in the bacteria. Then the bacterial film. You can identify different type of bacterial film by extended usage of 3D printing, and you can see that this is all the this bacterial film you can do. This is a tool which is much more than 3D printing. Hydrogel implants. Researchers develop a hydrogel implant embedded with a fiber optic cable that can direct the activity of cells with light. In this case, the light stimulated cells in the hydrogel to suppress high blood sugar level in diabetic mice. So it is undergoing, and the people are working in the mice model, and they are modifying the technique and refining the technique for different type of severe diseases. This is the next generation. Researchers at the University of Oxford used next generation sequencing to create a method to check embryos for chromosomal abnormalities, gene mutation, and mitochondrial genome mutations. And so next generation sequencing improves our ability to detect these abnormalities and help us identify the embryo with the best chances of producing a viable pregnancy. Potentially, this should lead to improved IVF success rates and a lower risk of miscarriage. So let's see where Indian research stands. This is, you can see, the India's performance as scientific publication. So this is where we stand for. The material science and physics are in the range of 0.8 to 0.95 of global average. So this is what I just wanted to tell you. And with this, I thank every one of you for listening my lecture. And if there is anything which you want to ask me, I will be very happy to reply.
थैंक यू सर, आपने जो आज अपने व्यस्ततम समय के लिए इस व्याख्यान के लिए आपने आया सर, उसके लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। और सर अभी फिलहाल मतलब टाइम कम है, तो मैं चाहता हूं कि अगला सेशन शुरू हो जाए।
थैंक यू, थैंक यू,
आपको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
थैंक यू।
सर आपने मतलब जो इस समय चल रहे जमाने के लिए आपने सभी बायोटेक्नोलॉजी बता दी, और एग्रीकल्चर से तो बायोटेक्नोलॉजी काफी रिलेशन रखता है।
Okay, okay.
बायोटेक्नोलॉजी से
I could not read your comments because it was not showing on my, appearing on my screen.
ओके सर, ओके। अब मैं प्रोफेसर बीके तिवारी सर का स्वागत करना चाहता हूं। और नमस्कार सर। सर सबसे पहले माफ़ी चाहता हूं कि थोड़ा टाइम लेट हो गया है, तो उसके लिए सर क्षमा कर दीजिएगा बच्चे समझ के। सर अब मैं चाहता हूं कि आप तो इंडिया में पूरे फेमस हो, आपके परिचय की तो आवश्यकता नहीं, आप पूरी दुनिया में।
ठीक है, ठीक है, ठीक है, ओके। ठीक है प्रवीण जी, ठीक है, मैं अब स्टार्ट करता हूँ। सबसे पहले मैं विज्ञान प्रसार, डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी और टेक्नो फेस्टिवल 2021 का के जो भी कर्ता धर्ता हैं, इनको मैं बहुत इनका आभार व्यक्त करता हूं कि आप लोगों ने हम सुन पा रहे हैं हमको? आर यू एबल टू हियर मी? ओके फाइन।
यस सर, यस यस।
सो जैसे डायरेक्टर नकुल पराशर जी, प्रवीण शुक्ला जी और अमृतांश वाजपेयी जी, आप सबको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। और हम आप सबके कृतज्ञ हैं कि आप लोगों ने हमें ये अवसर दिया कि हम अपनी जो भी नॉलेज है एग्रीकल्चरल टेक्नोलॉजी में उसको आपके साथ शेयर कर सके इस अवसर पर। ऐसा है कि चूंकि काफी मुझे पता है कि आप लोग को 3:15 में बंद करना था, लेकिन ये 3:15 तो 3:17 अभी ही हो गया। तो मैं अपनी जो टेक्नोलॉजी का जो भी करने वाला हूं, मैं उसको 40 मिनट तक नहीं ले जाऊंगा, बट मैं चाहूंगा कि मूल चीजें जो है उसको जरूर लोगों को बताऊं। और हमारी स्लाइड्स हम शेयर करना
बिल्कुल सर,
चाहेंगे।
बिल्कुल।
और उसके साथ अगर कोई चीज और कोई क्वेश्चन होगा तो हम उस क्वेश्चन का भी जवाब देने की कोशिश करेंगे। धन्यवाद। हाँ, शेयर कर रहे हैं। Can you see my slides?
Yes sir, yes sir.
Okay, very good. So as this is the first slide, it just talks of my topic, agricultural technology and its application, which is given by each one of you. Now go to the next one. Friends, it is very essential to know the whole demography of this country and our population, because everything that is dependent on our land it has to be chalked up. And therefore, you see that the total geographical area is 329 million hectares, and our population today stands at 138 crores. And if you go back, what was our population when we became when we became free or independent? At that time, you see something of the order of 36.10 crores. So this is the change which has taken place from 1951 to 2020, that we have 138 crores now. And the land which was there, in fact, land has decreased, because in order to create the facilities for the people who have grown from 36 crores to about 138 crores, I think there has to be schooling, there has to be roads, there has to be hospitals and other buildings for their accommodation, etc. And therefore, the land has shrunk over the period of these 75 years. And then the challenge comes to the engineers and the scientists to provide food for the large population which has come up in this country over the period of time, while the land has decreased. And therefore, there is a need for thinking about how to provide food to this large population. We also know that there are various types of technology for doing this, but the fact remains that until unless you take the help of the technology in today's world, it is not possible, because 50% of the 60% of the people are dependent on agriculture, and you know that about 16% of contribution of GDP of agriculture is there in GDP. And therefore, we must analyze the whole fact while we talk of the population, while we talk of the food security. We must also talk what are the ways by which we can enhance our production, such that we need to feed the people over a sustained period of time. Next one. So in this, what we see here, that the farming systems, you see, the farming systems are of various kind. This country is available with all sorts of climates. You have seen that in one area which is completely dry, desert, and then one side is a lot of flood. So we have various types of agroclimatic zones in this particular country, and therefore, if we divide the farming systems, you will find that some are rain-fed farming, the others are irrigated farming, and there is a new technology because of the shrunk area of the land, we have to think of innovative ways of creating fruits, vegetables, and other some of the essential flowers, etc. So, which comes under hydroponic farming. Now, under the rain-fed farming, we also feel that the rain is not sufficient in some of the areas, and in some of the areas it is much less. And therefore, we talk of dryland farming and wetland farming, depending upon the volume of rain. Next. See, what we have to talk of is, in these technologies, we have to definitely look for what is the amount of mechanization or agricultural technology has to be given right from seed to seed. See, when we are talking of the seed which is available for us for sowing, and the seed which is available for us after harvesting and threshing the soil. So during this period, what are the various operations? We know that about 40-50% people are employed in agriculture activities. And if you go back about 70 years or 75 years, you will find that majority of the work was done by manual operation and animal only. But over the period of time, when the other infrastructure creation, the government has come forward. So there has been exodus of people, because the yield, or after the green revolution, we find that the yield has not been to the extent. You can see that the yield at one point of time was much less, and today we require something of the order about 350 million hectares by 50 million tons by 2030. So while population is also growing, we need to think about how to increase that. And there has been exodus of people, as I said earlier, from agriculture, because it's not a profitable venture now, and therefore people are going to other areas. In this case, we find that the manual availability of people, we see that our country is large and populated country, is so much of population, but we do not have people to work on the farms because of various reasons. Therefore, we have to think of the new technology. We have to think of the innovative ways by which we can produce more. And therefore, we have to think of the small land which we have, the large lands which we have, and the small, medium lands that we have. And you see the technology, because unless you fall back on the technology, you are not going to perform all the operations in time, because agriculture is such that it has to be performed judiciously within the period of time when a particular operation has to be completed for a particular crop. And if you want to produce more and more out of the small and fragmented land, as well as the land which has been shrunk over the period, we have to think of various types of cropping intensity. And that also means that from the same land, 3-4 crops should be taken. We have to decide. I mean, the engineers and the scientists must decide what should be the cropping intensity, what should be the crop rotation which the farmers of different regions should pick up, so that they are in a position to come up with good quality material, good quality products. At the same time, they earn more. They will have to think of innovative ways, and there, when we think of innovative ways, there at that point we think of the different types of technologies, whether the technology is from indigenous technology, or which needs to be innovated, or which needs to be thought of, the technologies like robots and drones in the 21st century. So I think we will deal with all these things in detail at some other location, but I think I would like to touch on these aspects where we need to have to take help of this technology. For example, when we are talking from seed to seed, see the operations like TJ operations. Now, these are some of the equipment which are already available in the country. We don't have to go to any other country. These are being produced in our country and they are being used. Now, somebody may ask a question that how do you use that? Which type of technology? We have the 3 power sources. You can see here itself that manually the things have been done in the past, every operation, right from tilling also to harvesting. And the animals have been employed. Now you can see that since the manpower has reduced a lot, we have more and more of fuel power which has come up on the farms, and therefore we have to utilize this. And these technologies are very much homegrown technologies being available at these places. What is important is we need to look for the size of the land, because the fragmentation, about 70% of land, you can say about 65 to 67% of land is small and marginal farmers' land. And therefore, there has to be some innovation from the farmer's point of view, from the income, enhancing the income point of view, and the various policies which the government must come forward. Because the policies which are declared by the government, I think they are, I'm not going into any controversy, but I can tell you that it is high time that the farmer thinks of business about his farm. Even the land is small, but in 1 acre of land, in 2 acres of land, he can create 3 or 4 crops if he judiciously uses his resources. If he does not have the resources, I think he will have to borrow resources from friends or the people who are ready to give the resources, and on a contract basis or on a cooperative basis. And this is essential for the farmer to come forward, take those, and maybe few farmers must come together. So either you think of a cooperative way of farming, or you have to think of maybe a contract farming in such a way that funds somebody is available having, and the technologies which can be employed in the farm for maximizing the production on the farm, and the type of crop rotations to be taken, type of crops to be taken, whether it is a cereal crop, is a fruit crop, vegetable crop, or any other crop that we are thinking of. That means we will have to think of the technology, of availability of the technology on all sorts of farms. We cannot only say that since our 60% of the people are small holdings, we will allow them to lurk there and then say that, okay, you have to only utilize manual equipment. People are not there, so who will operate that? And therefore, it is essential that these small lands, 3-4 friends in the village, must come together and take help of the government's the provisions or the schemes which have been there, and take help of the banks, and come forward, have a set of machines which will try to finish these operations in time, and hence the output will also be more. So these are various equipment. The next one. And then see, these are the equipment, various equipment. We have shown you all sorts of level, the manual level, then we have talked of the small equipment you can see here. Then we have seen the tractor drawn also. We are talking of the weeding machines. We are talking of tractor drawn weeding equipment and machines which have been developed in the country, and they are very much available at various locations. Next one. Yes, harvesting operation. And after that, this is the operation. So when we are talking of seed to seed, I repeat this particular sentence, because you have to get the grain out of the land, and therefore the harvesting operations. In fact, many of the harvesters are available in the country of various crops. You can say the combine harvester, groundnut harvester, potato harvester, and then fruit and vegetable harvesters are also there, which are being used. So so it is essential that the machines which are available in the country are being manufactured, or some of them are assembling. I think there has to be application of these machines on our farms, and I can tell you that the small farms have to come forward. They have to take help of the schemes of the government and come together and think of a business model for these land. Otherwise, they will remain at that position. And therefore, my request to all my friends who are listening to me is essential that if you have 1 acre land and 4 of you are friends, then come together. A 4-hectare land will be available, and you can take help of the technology which is available. If 10 of you come together in the village itself, make friends and see the 10-hectare land. And once you have 10-hectare land, you can plan of the methodology by which you can do the business of production. You can think of the revenue, and you think of the different types of crops. And therefore, I can tell you that these technologies are essential. Next. Similarly, for wetland farming, these are for wetland. You see that for right from the field preparation to sowing to harvesting to to agriculture operation, then planting, and then harvesting. So these are the machines which are already available in the country. Next. Similarly, for technology, see, it is very essential to know that irrigated farming, in the world, if you consider our irrigated farming, we are number 1 in the world. We rank 1 in the world, about 39 million hectares which are under irrigation that we have a system. The important thing is that wherever water is there, I think we cannot ignore the importance of water, and therefore we have to think of innovative technology. And there, the drip irrigation, various companies have come forward in this country for micro irrigation, for drip irrigation, so that we can economize on these technologies. We can save water, then we can save also on the cost of insect pests, etc., and the quality of the product. At the same time, this particular technology will be available. In fact, the drip technology, if you talk of if you have seen that on the Sivalinga, this water has been dipping. Maybe that has been the technology from there. Some people have picked up. Why not continuously give water to our plants, and it will just take as much as it requires instead of flooding the whole crop. I think then there is another one, in fact, sprinkler irrigation. Some of the cash crops like coffee, tea, I think these are the irrigation where also you avoid the channeling and you avoid many other cost of transportation, etc., of the equipment which are required, and you can have these technologies. So you can say that in irrigation of the various kinds of crop, the micro irrigation and the sprinkler irrigation are the innovation technology which we have to use if you want to really grow and create food for sustainable period of time for our people to come in future. Maybe 2030, 2050, our population will, in the whole globe population, will be about 9.3 billion people, and therefore we have to think of these innovative technology. Next. Then I had talked of this hydroponic farming. See, what happens is that many places, when, as I said, that we do not have the land, and therefore on the top of the roof we can think of a technology where soil is not required. That's why we call it soilless farming. And there you can have small fruits, vegetables, and even flowers can be grown on the terrace as well as on the balconies, where at least the solar energy is available to you. Similarly, the greenhouse technology, this is also, in fact, I can tell you that at Kharagpur, we have trained about 11,000 farmers of Bengal, Bihar, and Odisha and Jharkhand on this technology. And many of the groups have been trained even for the material of this particular technologies, material of construction, that they can get those materials. They don't have to go outside the village and purchase. We have talked of the locally available materials in which they can create those greenhouses, and the training has been given so that they can bring out those crops, the fruits, vegetables, and flowers, and they can grow these over a whole round the year. We have also talked of the water harvesting technology, which can be further used in this shed net cultivation. So this is another technology which the farmers, if they are thinking of a business-like proposition for a small land, I think these are the technologies which they must take up and think of growing. They need not go for only paddy and rice and wheat, but there are, paddy, wheat, and potato, etc. Fine, there are some areas where their potato will be grown. So when potato is grown over there, we should think of how to see that the product of potato is maximized, it's a good quality one, how it should be stored, and how to process that. I think we have to talk of all the three technologies, available technologies. These are all available in the country. I think the farmers have to come forward and see the technologies, the machinery which is available, and come forward to take this and think of a business-like model for our growth and development in agricultural production. Now, the hill areas, how can we forget our hill areas? Large portion of our people are there in hill areas, and for that also technology is available for the crops that they grow. It goes from the manual devices of weeding, seeding, as well as the field preparation, to some of the small power operated and lighter machines available for the hill regions where these are being used. We also talk of the fruit harvesting, because many fruits and flowers are available in these beautiful hill regions. We should be able to take those small technologies and try to use them. Research is also going on many other type, because the technologies are available, but there are many hiccups in these technologies. So researchers are also working on this. Now there is a need to work hand in hand with the farmers and see the requirement of the farmer in a particular in a given area, and there we should repurpose our equipment to suit the requirement of that area. I think that will be the best help to the farmers of a particular given region. Next one. Now we are talking of the cash crops. Yes, you might have seen that the cash crops are the ones. Of course, our condition now is India ranked second of tea production and fifth coffee production in the world. Now, but we see that the production is here, but we would like to increase the production. We will see that how best we can produce quality tea, etc. But because of the labor, there is a big problem of labor. There was a time when a lot of labor was available for this, but I think, as I said earlier, people are not available for these jobs, and therefore we have to think of technology. So the researchers are working. There are a few I have shown you here, some of the harvesting technologies which are available. In fact, I have worked for 3 years in one of the projects in the area of Assam and Dwars, and I can tell you that we have also talked of the processing technology of the tea, wherein we can economize on the energy utilized on the operations and various handling of tea over the period of its processing, from the green leaf to the actual product, which is the dry tea product, which is available in various grades of COP, POD, and chinopodium and things like that. And although the technologies are very in the small stage, but I think there is a need to come forward and have these technologies. There are some of the growers and some of the technology manufacturers in different parts in South. I know some of the manufacturers. I think they should come together and come out with small machines for these tea gardens and coffee, etc. Because we have to help these farmers grow and increase their production for their revenue. Next, of course, this is another thing. I must touch the areas where we are having. You can see here manual coconut harvesting. You can see the one part of our country where a lot of coconut is available, and we would like to have technology. You can see that automatic up-down coconut harvesters. Some of our friends have innovated these technologies. Some of these are robotic coconut harvester technologies. I think there are various types of these agricultural technologies to help the coconut growers in the countries there, because a time has come, people are not available, and also the growth is such of these crops that we have to think of technology to harvest more good quality fruits and to utilize them. So these are some of the technologies which we must know. Then palm, one of the areas in which palm, I think, go back. This agriculture, I'm talking of palm here. See, recently we are also working with the Palm Research Institute, which is ICR's institute, and I can tell you that there are various types of technology which they are available, and this is used for the oil. We need to work on the technology which is easily available to the farmer. Now, there are technologies, but the technologies are not enough. They are only the facilitators, like some of them which have been shown here, but we need to have slightly bigger equipment, or maybe medium-sized equipment which can help the farmers. This is another thing which is required. So when we talk of the cash crop, when we talk of the regional crops and some of the very crops which are going to revenue generating crops, I think there is a need for technology to be adopted in these locations, and more research also needed in these areas. Next. I have not talked of jute. Some of the small seeds. This is essential. Jute is in the area of West Bengal here. We are higher producing jute, and I can tell you that we have developed both the technologies in IIT Kharagpur. Manual jute seed drill is you can see that the 4-row here, and we have developed I think about 7 rows or 8 rows seed drill on the other side. I can show you on the right hand side. We can show you that a self-propelled machine is also developed, because in these areas, I think for jute seeding, the machines are not available, and manual, it is not possible to grow a lot of land. So while we talk of the jute seeding technology, we also need to think of the processing technology and also fiber extraction from jute. So we have also done some work in that area, but I think there is not enough time to tell you about those technologies. But yes, technology is available for jute crop as well, and a lot of jute institute is there in Calcutta, and a lot of research is going on with regard to what should be the technology which will help these farmers to grow this jute crop, as well as have the product coming out of it, and utilization of that product for various byproducts. And next. Well, some of the advanced machines which are already available in the country, these are some of the machines which I wanted that you should know that some of our manufacturers have brought them, and they are local dealers who are in a position, and the farmers or bigger areas. For example, laser line leveler is now available in our country, and this is one equipment which has made revolution about 10-15 years back, because of its cost was very high, but some of the industries came together, and now it is available around 3 lakhs rupees or so, and it helps you in saving about 20 to 30 percent of water. So we do have the technologies, and there is need for using of these technologies who can afford to have, particularly the bigger farmers of Punjab, Haryana, and northern belt of UP, where the farmlands are bigger. Next. Well, we do have, as I was telling, that we are thinking of precision technology, because unless we think of the 21st century equipment which will be required for next 5 to 7 years, and where the people will not be available for our work, I think some of the technology which we have done at Kharagpur, and these are available. I can say that for sugarcane, we have developed a technology by which you can think of planting of those sugarcane buds, and then planting with enough care, and also to create those buds. We have also a machine created so that the buds could be cut and then they could be planted in the machine, as you can see on the right hand side, the operation of the machine. Next. Then using the ultrasonic sensor, now you see the sprayers are available. Several sprayers are available in the market, but there is no, they do not have the technology so that we can use wherever the requirement of the plant is there. Many times we simply start the machine and just start to spray it all over the place, but there is a need to economize on the total quantity of the liquid that we are using. It is very essential, and the work which we have done at IIT Kharagpur on ultrasonic sensor, I can tell you that we are successful to save about 25 to 30% in some of the turbojet nozzles, and about 40 to 50% of the chemical with different types of nozzles. So, and these are innovations where we need to incorporate with our existing tractor operated sprayers which are available with the machinery manufacturers, and come forward to see that we help. There is another fertilizer applicator as well, because the fertilizer also, when we are applying to the land, these fertilizer have to be applied at the location where it is needed. Generally farmers throw at every place, but I think we have done work at IIT Kharagpur where the variable rate fertilizer, that means the rate could be given depending upon the availability of the nutrient already in the land at a particular a given point of time. So this is using a GPS. We have developed this equipment, and more work has been done, and we are further going ahead in this area. Next one. Similarly, we are talking of the high-ended equipment. See, robot. A time will come when a robot will be essential to do the work in the field. Maybe after 10 maybe years or so, you will not have human being available, and these are being used at several locations, and therefore we think of the operations which could be taken up by robots is like weed control, cloud seeding, planting seeds, then harvesting, environmental monitoring of particular, and the soil analysis. It's possible that a large field is there and we want to have large amount of samples for testing. I think these drones will help us in getting those samples. Sometimes a large field is there and we are interested to know what sort of infestation the whole crop has gone through. Maybe that we could be able to use our drones, which are also robots. So these drones can go to that location with a camera and take the photographs. We can analyze those things, and then there could be softwares. We are working on that aspect as well at IIT Kharagpur, and many other research institutions. Work is going on in the world, and it's that all over we are at the level where the research is going on in the world as well. It is not that we are at a lower level and these people have gone abroad and gone ahead beyond what we are thinking. We are thinking in the same level than any advanced country in the world. Only thing is that we have to prioritize our requirement with regard to the availability and with regard to the you can say the size and the packet of our farmer, if he can afford what type a particular type of technology. And therefore we have to think twice thrice about these high-ended technologies. But I think it's not high time then when you are going to use these technologies. Next, whenever we do see, the production is there, but after production, I think as I told you that a lot of food is wasted. We would like to save that. You have seen that in time when the production is either you're talking of citrus or you talk of tomato or you talk of potato, I think they are virtually thrown. And if it is possible to save that those things in the farm itself. Now, one technology which has been used in with the help of IRI and the University of Michigan, I have this one which is being used in Rajasthan at various places I have seen. And I can tell you that these technologies is using the solar energy and then trying to maintain at a very low temperature, I can tell you. And these are the things, innovative things the farmers have to come forward. And here many farmers are using this technology for their help. Similarly, some of our areas, say where we cannot use so much of soil, we cannot use the high temperature zone like 2 degrees to 8 degrees in Ladakh. These are some of the technologies where we are also trying to work with DRDO so that we can develop some of the technologies with regard to the food storage of our great soldiers who are there and fighting at the border. So we would like to have these fruits, vegetables, and all the ration which is required for them, and maybe portable ones. This is also a portable one which has been developed, and we are also trying to work in these soilless and low temperature fruits, vegetables, and sustaining. I mean, ration sustaining those structures. And I think these are people must know that right from the flat land to land where we have a temperature of minus 40 degrees or so, I think we have to have technologies, and there are technologies our scientists and engineers are working. There is a need to our bright young fellows to know that these are the future, and we have to work on these technologies to help the nation. Next. Okay. I think I just wanted to take you to this short presentation. I think I have tried to put in my presentation in such a way that an idea is given to each one of you. And if you have any questions, I'm ready to answer. I know that there is no time, but I think even if you like to give those questions later, I will be able to help you. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
सर आपके स्क्रीन में आपको साथ देखिए क्वेश्चन दिखता होगा.
So I wholeheartedly thank the honorable speaker, Professor Tiwari sir. Bound हो रही है.
हेलो, हाँ विधांशु सर, यहाँ पे देखिए अलग क्वेश्चन में सर आपकी स्क्रीन साथ दिखा हुआ.
हेलो.
आनंदी जैन जी का एक सवाल है, सर कैन बी रिजर्व सम परसेंट ऑफ इंडियाज एरेबल लैंड फॉर ऑर्गेनिक फार्मिंग एंड गवर्नमेंट कैन हेल्प द कॉन्ट्रैक्टेड फार्मर्स. ये आपकी स्क्रीन पर फ्लैश भी हो रहा है.
तो नहीं, राइट राइट, वो नहीं नहीं, इसमें लगने, इसमें गवर्नमेंट को करने की जरूरत नहीं है. देयर आई थिंक द फार्मर, इफ ही वांट्स फॉर ऑर्गेनिक फार्मिंग, ही कैन put some of the land. That's all. It's not that there has to be somebody will tell him to put it like this. Land is all fertile land, and he can think of organic. He can think of all those things which he doesn't want, and it is possible. Why not? People are doing organic farming.
Sure. So there is another question by another one of the other participants on the YouTube itself. She is saying that by using chemical fertilizers to increase the yield of crops, the quality and the nutrition of the crops is deteriorating. How can we solve that, sir?
In fact, I think the answer is on the previous question, that because we right from
Yes, sir. Yes, yes.
Green Revolution, we started pouring in more and more of chemicals, and we thought that we will be able to get those yields. We got those yields, but over the period we spoiled our soil, and the soils of north, I think Punjab and all, will find that they have been polluted to the extent that it is simply not possible to use them, and therefore we are trying to avoid, minimize these chemicals as far as possible, and therefore we are going towards organic farming. We have to go for the farm where manure. We have to go for the different kinds of farming. We have to minimize. There is no other alternative. There has to be minimize. We cannot think of these, and therefore we have to take the help of the technology for applying exactly the amount which is required for a particular fertilizer or chemical that you are applying. You cannot throw the way you are throwing earlier. So the only way is to take help of the technology for applying those things in the required amount, which is required for that particular crop. If the crop is infested, say for example, in a certain location, this has to be found out, and only that area has to be treated, not the whole crop, because unless you do that. Now, for that, you have to take help of a drone technology. That the drone, if you have a 5-acre land, you cannot go each at every location and see. It will take long time. You don't have people, and therefore a small drone. We are also working on that. DRDO is also interested in that. That small drone, which is about 300 grams payload capacity, that can go there, take a photograph, and then immediately we can put a small. I have one small drone we have created at IIT Kharagpur, which can go and just spray that location and come back. So I think we have to take these innovative technologies to help our farmers.
So thanks a lot, sir. And actually there are multitudes of questions, and I know that you have got a very busy schedule. You were there in the meeting just before the session also, and you have a lot of academic as well as administrative engagements to follow. So we really are grateful to you for your esteemed presence. And to the audience, actually, because in the beginning the time was so short that we were not able to tell that the audience were actually listening to a person of stature who is known for the pioneering studies in the field of farm machinery and power. And sir actually is an elected fellow of the Indian Society of the Agricultural Engineers and the Institution of Engineers of India. And so we have heard about a lot of patents, and sir has been a pioneering fellow in the field of the patenting also, and an agricultural engineer, a professor, and currently doing his administrative responsibilities as the director of IIT Kharagpur. And personally speaking, sir, we may not be familiar with each other in person, but I have been a follower of yours ever since your days as a professor in your department when I was a visitor as a small student. So today it's really great that I have been a part of this program and I have been able to interact with you. So this has been a blessing for me at the personal level also. So on behalf of the entire team of organizers, I really thanks and special thanks to Praveen ji for giving us such a gem of people today on this online platform, and we have who have not only patiently taken their time out from the busiest of the schedule, but they have elucidated their PowerPoints or the presentations or the sessions in such a huge detail that it has been a real knowledge gaining forum. And I hope that all the audience spanning from the secondary to senior secondary to graduation and beyond, and the audience who have spanned across the generations, they have been the speakers of such repute who spoke on this platform when even my parents were also not born. So I really today has been a great learning experience for me on behalf of the Global Science Initiative under the convenership of Mr. Praveen Shukla. Also on behalf of the second most important pioneering institution, Meghanad Shah Vigyan Prasar Vipnet Club of Madhya Pradesh, led by the convenership of Shri Pradeep Solanki, and the supporting team of Ignited Minds Vipnet Club UP 0103 and the patronage of Dr. Arvind C. Ranade. I take it as an opportunity to really thank all the speakers, all the distinguished speakers from the inaugural session, beginning from Dr. Nakul Parashar to Dr. Arvind C. Ranade, Professor Praful Krishna, Professor Brijesh Lal, Shri Anil Chand Mathur sir, Professor Ayan Datta sir, Professor Prakash Bisen, and last but most important, the person who has been speaker on this concluding session, because फर्स्ट इंप्रेशन इज द लास्ट इंप्रेशन एंड लास्ट इंप्रेशन इज द एवरलास्टिंग इंप्रेशन. तो सर आपने जो आज हम सभी के सामने भारत की इस संप्रभुता को सेलिब्रेट करने का जो आज जो हमारा राष्ट्रीय प्रौद्योगिकी दिवस है, उस पर इस वर्चुअल प्लेटफॉर्म पर आकर के आपने इस कार्यक्रम की शोभा बढ़ाई है, उसके लिए हम सभी ऑर्गेनाइजर्स आपका तहे दिल से आभारी रहेंगे और उम्मीद रखते हैं कि आने वाले भविष्य में भी आपका आशीर्वाद, आपकी मौजूदगी और आपके वक्तव्य हम सभी लोगों को आने वाले भविष्य की ओर हम आने वाले भविष्य की तरफ हम सभी का मार्गदर्शन करते रहेंगे. इसी उम्मीद के साथ मैं आपका एक बार फिर से हार्दिक विनम्र अभिनंदन करता हूँ. थैंक्स प्रोफेसर वीरेंद्र कुमार तिवारी सर फॉर ज्वाइनिंग. एंड as we all know that we are in the COVID pandemic times. हम लोग इस समय कोविड पैंडेमिक टाइम में हैं, तो इस समय मैं आप सभी से एक जाहिर सी बात है, आप सभी के लिए मैं शुभकामनाएं मैं इस ऑनलाइन मंच से मैं देना चाहूँगा ऑन बिहाफ ऑफ ऑल द ऑर्गेनाइजर्स एंड ऑल्सो ऑन बिहाफ ऑफ ऑल द स्पीकर्स एंड देयर इंस्टीट्यूशंस. स्टे सेफ, स्टे हेल्दी, follow all the normal COVID protocols, because I will tell you, I am merging a little bit of physics again. Two positives cannot stay together. If you are positive from your mindset, the COVID positivity has to go away. And similarly, two negatives also cannot stay together. If you are negative in the COVID test, the negativity of the mindset has to go away. With this parting message, thanking all the honorable speakers and thanking the speaker of the concluding session, I bid you a farewell and declare and request Professor Tiwari to kindly declare a formal closure of the session. Over to sir, with some message to the audience who is listening to you live.
Thank you very much. I think this is a great honor given to me for this. I can tell you that this was a wonderful program that this Vigyan Prasar did. Right from the space technology to agricultural technology, that means from soil to akas. And I was, while I was doing my work, I was also listening to partly whenever I used to come, I was putting it on. And I can tell you that the nanotechnology, you're talking of biotechnology, you're talking of the artificial intelligence, and then other satellites and things like that. I think this has been a good, I think I must congratulate the whole group of Vigyan Prasar, all of you, that the groups, clubs who have joined together for creating such a platform during this period. And what I'm definitely happy that each one of you have acquired a very nice thing, that two negatives cannot remain together. Yes, it is very good, because we have to remain positive, but we don't want to become COVID positive. So therefore, in order to become positive, we have to think that, okay, everything is negative from the COVID point of view. Because even if people who are COVID positive, they have to think that we should not be negatively thinking. We should be thinking of positive. And the moment you think of positive, you will overcome. And the other positive of COVID will definitely subside and become all right. And therefore, those my friends who are of 50 and above, they must have taken their medicines, vaccination. And the younger ones, I think if we available, please take those vaccines. At the same time, I think you should remain fit. You must, if you are not going out, I think jog and do exercises in the house in the morning, and take some of these, whatever has been told by our ancient fathers and forefathers, that you कान नाक में तेल लगाना चाहिए, तुलसी पत्ता खाना चाहिए, and these are the things which have been told by all people, what our Vedas, all these say. I think we have to go back, because immunity is first and their health is first. That means you will have to maintain your health first right from the beginning. Then only you can do your work. Either you are talking of technology, or you are talking of manufacturing, your technology of information technology, whatever. So best is that you first keep yourself fit, be positive, and think of everything better in life. Every day is a new life. Remember that. You don't think what will happen. Live by the day. Think of this day, that okay, today will be a good day for me, and thank the God in the night, so that there will be a tomorrow will be a better day. Like this, I think we will come over. And as my friend, a young friend, has requested, I think let us think of positivity. Let us think of in this pandemic, whatever is given. If you are going out, we should maintain the procedures which are given. Have mask, maintain the distances, try to wash or use the sanitizers and things like that, and see that we are going to face this battle definitely. I am confident that still whatever is being talked of in this country, I can tell you that we because of our population, the percentage is less, but we have vaccinated more people than any other country for that matter. And our country is such a, see, we talk of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and that is why we have given medicine of the vaccination to other people when the small countries, and they have been blessed and helped. And that is why when you require more, the people are helping us. I think it is just the attitude of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam that our nature earth has given to us. As India, we were superpower. We will definitely become further superpower with these attitudes and ethics that we are holding. I am sure we will win the battle. And thank you, best of luck, and have a nice day. Namaskar to all of you.
Thanks a lot, sir. And on this positive note, I
Sir,
just shall say,
सर सुनिए
yes, we can.
सर एक
जी जी बताइए, प्रवीण जी बोलिए।
वो पीपीटी चाहिए उनको।
जी सर, कई ऑडियंस के कई पॉकेट से जो है रिक्वेस्ट आ रही है।
एक्चुअली ठीक है, वो हम वो अपना मेल करें, हम उनको जो जिस तरह की जरूरत पड़ेगी उसको हेल्प कर सकते हैं। पूरी पीपीटी, बिकॉज इसमें बहुत कुछ आईपीआर के रिलेटेड है, और कुछ स्टूडेंट्स हमारे इन्वॉल्व है, इसलिए हम इसकी जो जरूरत पड़ेगा वो, या प्रवीण जी कुछ बोलना चाहते हैं?
आपसे
जी
रिक्वेस्ट है कि जो आप
प्रवीण जी, आपका आवाज फ्रोजन हो रही है।
हमारे
मेरा सजेशन रहेगा प्रवीण जी, आप अपना वीडियो ऑफ कर लें ताकि आपकी बैंडविड्थ उसमें सेव होकर के आपके ऑडियो में आ जाए, आप उधर से आपकी कन्वर्सेशन हो सके।
और नहीं तो आप हमको मेल कर सकते हैं, चैट में लिख दीजिए, हम आई विल बी एबल टू टेक केयर ऑफ दैट।
आपसे है कि आप इसको
आप आप उनसे पूछ लीजिए ना, पूछ के।
श्योर जी,
आप उनको
तो हमारे मेल में शेयर कर दीजिएगा।
हाँ ठीक है, ठीक है, ठीक है।
तो इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ जो है, जैसे कि हमारे अतिथि वक्ता को अब जाना भी है क्योंकि उनकी अपनी प्रशासनिक रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज भी हैं, तो सर मैं आपको एश्योर करता हूं कि जो आपने पार्टिंग मैसेज दिया है, यस वी कैन, यस वी विल एंड यस वी शुड। थैंक यू सर, थैंक्स अ लॉट। इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ मैं आज के सत्र की समाप्ति की घोषणा करता हूं। थैंक्स अ लॉट अगेन फॉर ज्वाइनिंग द सेशन फॉर द डे। थैंक्स अ लॉट सर।
थैंक यू, नमस्कार टू ऑल ऑफ यू, बेस्ट, गुड डे।
नमस्कार सर, गुड डे सर।